Where will the Browns go tonight in our festivities? How high will Jalen Tolbert be pushed up the ADP board? And will the pros be able to hold their own against the FFPC Joes this evening? Follow along with the live draft board tonight as you watch our pick-by-pick analysis while we call the action from the 2022 FFPC Pros versus Joes Your Dead Meat League Number 5 draft to see who's going to win a 2023 FFPC main event squad. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell, Elliott, and Dave Terpoilli are here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
And the pressure, I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-hosts tonight are the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, he of KFFSC.com fame, Ferrell Elliott, and of course, our FFPC live best ball expert analyst, Dave Terpoilli. Tonight, we have the fifth of 6 extra special episodes for you. It's the 2022 FFPC Pros versus Joes Your Dead Meat main event, your Dead Meat League, not the main event. Number 5 tonight. We're going to be covering it the whole way for you here on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Shout out to the chat room right now. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in there. We'll try to get to all of them. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, we're at HSFF Hour. I'm at Eric Balkman. Farrell's at JFerrell Elliott. And of course, Dave is at Dave Terp. You can post on our Facebook page, facebook.com/HSFFO, or beg your pardon, and our email inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Send those questions in. We'll try to get to them throughout the program tonight, thanks to the hard work of our producer and mutual friend, Rob, and our audio engineer, my best friend, Bryce. Don't forget to register for the FFPC main event if you haven't yet. The next draft slot deadline is going to be August 15th, and you'll get your draft slot by August 17th. $1 million grand prize this year, whether you're hanging out with us in Vegas and drafting live or from the comfort of your own home. Plenty of Football Guys Players Championship drafts filling up each and every day. You can take your shot at a $500,000 grand prize there. Our best ball tournaments, $125 to win $200,000 in our classic best ball tournament. And then our Superflex best ball tournament, $35 entry, $10,000 grand prize. Dynasty startups going for the next month. Closed 12-team leagues, all at myffpc.com. Tonight, we have number 5 of the Pros versus Joes to give you the lay of the land here. Picking first, Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski, a couple of FFPC Joes who you know from this program, who've made their appearances on here. Josh Hayes from Rotoballer.com, he's drafting second. Lou Tranquilli, a highly accomplished FFPC player, drafting third tonight. Doug Orth from FF Today, a longtime Pros versus Joes drafter. He is picking fourth, cleaning it up tonight. Bill Van Ormer, you just saw him on this program about a month and a half ago. He's picking fifth. NBC Sports Edge and the ship-chasing co-host, Pat Kerrane, is actually going to be picking sixth tonight, followed by former FFPC main event $500,000 winner Phil Hooten, who's drafting seventh. Dan Williamson from the GOAT District, the pro in the 8th spot tonight. John Hurd, another former guest of the show, picking 9th tonight. Liam Murphy from Fantasy Points is 10th. Shane Wingard, who was just on this program about a month or so ago, the Irish CEO, is picking 11th tonight. And Bob Lung from Big Guy Fantasy Sports picking 12th. I want to bring in the draft board right now here as we have some, we got some live analysis here. And can we do live analysis with the incomparable Dave Terpoilli? I don't think so. So I'll bring him in. Dave, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. I'm expecting fireworks tonight.
Why tonight are we expecting fireworks? What's going to happen?
There's a lot of guys who I know very well in this draft and a lot of well-accomplished players. We have a main event winner. We have the underdog champion last year, the $1 million Liam Murphy. There's a lot of talent in this draft.
There's also a lot of talent on this show. Ferrell Elliott joining us once again, the KFFSC commissioner. Ferrell, how we doing?
Excellent. Good to see you, gentlemen.
It's good to see you too. We're already through the first round, and fireworks, quasi fireworks to kick it off tonight. Christian McCaffrey going with the first overall pick tonight. Not Jonathan Taylor, not Cooper Kupp, but Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski taking Christian McCaffrey first overall. And then after that, we get Cooper Kupp 2. Jonathan Taylor falls 3 to Lou Tranquilli. Justin Jefferson to Doug Orth. Jamar Chase to number 5. That is Bill Van Ormer, followed by Travis Kelce to Pat Kerrane. Stephon Diggs off the board at 7 to Phil Hooten. Austin Eckler and Derrick Henry go to Dan Williamson and John Hurd, respectively. CeeDee Lamb makes an appearance at the 110 tonight. That's Liam Murphy from Fantasy Points. Najee Harris to Shane Wingard, and then Devontae Adams at 12 to Bob Lung from Big Guy Fantasy Sports. Let's kick things off right away. Ferrell, Christian McCaffrey at the 101. We've seen it before, and we've seen it twice now in Pros versus Joes. How prevalent is this going to be as we get closer to main event time that McCaffrey is going to leapfrog both Kupp and Taylor, do you think?
I guess it could happen. It happened tonight, and when we see him looking good on the field, when the quarterback situation gets corrected, maybe this will be the play. But I think that youth serves the Indianapolis Colts, the way that team is put together. I think Taylor's a better pick if you're going running back at 1.
Then you have the option, Terp, here at 2. Jonathan Taylor falls to you. Josh Hayes from Rotoballer ends up going with Cooper Kupp. Would you have been able to make that choice, Kupp over Taylor, if both presented you at the 102?
I'm probably taking Taylor. I just think he's a little bit safer. Kupp's coming off a career year. You have Allen Robinson coming in there now. It's not a bad pick for any reason. I mean, they're pretty much flip-flopping right now if you're going McCaffrey. I would have took Taylor, but it's not like anything I'm going to argue over.
So, and the last thing I'll bring up, we got a ton of guests we want to bring on here, and I'll get to our first one shortly. The CEO squad, Shane Wingard at 11, taking Najee Harris. We saw the report today that he got stepped on in practice. Ferrell, that's a non-issue, right? This is something that we're not concerned with right now.
I'm not concerned with it.
And Terp, that goes the same for you, right?
No concern whatsoever.
Okay, all right. So just one of those training camp things that we have. Let's bring in our first guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He was just on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, an esports pioneer, a founder of a startup, a game maker, former commissioner for EA Madden, of course, former tournament director for Riot Games. And he joins us tonight, a veteran of not only the Pros versus Joes, but a guy who's won a boatload of high stakes drafts in the FFPC and the Football Guys Players Championship. My neighbor to the south in southern Wisconsin, the incomparable Matt Marcoux. Welcome into the broadcast tonight, man. Sporting the Packers gear. I love it.
We gotta stop meeting like this. You called it with this league. I'm not the one who's gonna end up dead meat tonight. I'm dressed the part. We're gonna strike first, strike hard. Christian McCaffrey, CMC.
Love the energy.
And so, okay, so tell us about, so you and Mike obviously had to have a discussion about this. Why was McCaffrey over the pick of over both Kupp and Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, just no surprise. We just looked at points per game, like his ability to just be a league winner. He's been injured a bit, obviously a little bit of a concern, but no true severe injuries. So, when we looked at his situation, probably the best situation in Carolina that he's had in a while. You got to bet on your guy. Also, shout out another intangible. So to Todd and Lori in California, Lori has a special ability. They're both Stanford whisperers. Lori has a special ability to give a stat boost to NFL players simply by wishing it and willing it. So that's our hidden secret this year. How can you go wrong? So, Matt, would you say this was a joint decision between you and Mike? Yes, we 100% agreed on it. We were good for this decision. Okay. All right. So let's go to I'm going to try to bring him on right now. And I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm going to do my best. Oh, yeah, there he is. The former pro gamer, former guest of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, and co-manager with Matt Marcoux here tonight, Mike Stanowski. Welcome into the program, man.
Thanks, fellas. Good to be here.
Okay, so Mike, I apologize. You guys are on the clock right now. To walk us through this, what are we thinking here between you and Matt?
Well, Team 3 made a phenomenal pick here at the 210. That was the plan.
They sure did.
Yep. So that's a little bit of a snipe there, but we're okay. We're going to take the guy who's not going to be suspended this year.
For now.
In Deshaun Watson.
I said
Alvin
fireworks
Kamara's-
tonight. That would be some
Kamara.
fireworks.
Yeah, I know. You're right. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Mike, how are you and Matt deciding? Did you already have a pregame, like kind of like you knew what the first 3 picks are going to be going in? Because you're back on the clock at the 3:01 here.
Yeah. We definitely had a game plan. I think ETN, Kamara, we were going to smash that start and just send waves through the league here, I think. Matt, I think I'm going to talk you into Debo live on air here as he just signed his contract.
Matt, you on board with the Debo Samuel pick at the 3:01 here? I think
Matt's gone silent on us.
Has he gone
Sound like
silent?
it.
He's gone silent.
He's gone silent on us. You know, I have a question. I have a question for Mike. Mike, is the GameStop behind you open?
Yeah, it's definitely well stocked. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's quite open, but
it's not open, huh? And would Marcoux be the imbrued fang of your team? Would that be sort of how he would be defined?
I mean, you tell me, Ferrell. What do you think?
That I don't know. He looks the part.
I think it's a boomer reference. I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah. We just don't know.
Look, I'm back. No, I was saying, Debo, I was at the playoff game when the 49ers trounced the Packers, and it hurts me to go Debo, but I saw him play live, and that guy's a hell of a football player. So I'm gonna vote with my my brain here, and Mike's the tiebreaker against my heart.
Matt, was the only concern you had with Samuel was this outstanding contract situation between him and the team, and now you're full steam ahead with Samuel?
As I said in my my last appearance here, I'm not, money is an indicator, but I don't use that as like a primary factor. For me, it's just the quarterback situation. Like, how much do I believe in Trey Lance? Does some of his scrambling running potential take away from designed runs for Debo? It's hard to say. That's more the scenario that it's just challenging to read. I think there's boom or bust in the San Francisco offense. I hope Debo is the boom this year for the sake of this league.
Hey guys, and let me pitch this to you, Mike. You mentioned the Kamara pick on air. It sounds like you guys are of the belief we found out that his hearing got pushed back again today. Are you guys of the belief that Kamara just is, if he's going to be suspended, it'll be 2023 and you're not concerned about it this year?
Yeah, I do. And that's been from early on. We've just kind of seen the writing on the wall. And it's no matter what, I mean, looking at some of the players that are available here in the third, Kamara, if he's not suspended, belongs at the very least, I think, at the 1-2 turn. So playing for the upside really depends on the league. Don't want an absolute ton of exposure, but this definitely helps having, I think, some clarity on it. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that he actually didn't get pushed up in this draft. My expectation was he was going to kind of probably get taken where ETN did. So it was a surprise to see him fall as far as he did.
Matt, you've co-owned teams with Mike a lot in the FFPC main event. We know that you guys work well together as a team. You've been successful as a team in the main event. But what do you think was the biggest challenge that you guys either already got over, the biggest obstacle you've got past through that comes because of co-ownership, or are you still working through it? What's been the biggest challenge? What's been the hardest part about co-owning a team, even with a guy in Mike Stanowski, who you obviously get along with, you think the same way? What's been the most difficult part for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we think the same way. I think what helps is we both can follow a process, both the narrative process and a stats process, and be able to to marry the two. We still have a couple things I think we're ironing out. I think especially in the second round, I think we're going back and forth more on a couple guys. So it's been fortunate in this early season that a lot of our drafts have fallen in similar places. So we haven't really argued as we've been drafting, but there's still a couple of guys we're looking to resolve. And I will say, Mike and I, we have some drafts together, we have some drafts apart, so that we can, play different theories and philosophies. So we're not just hammering, the same 20 to 30 guys every year. So I think that's the healthy balance we have, is that we get to have our own rooms in the house, so to speak, right? Where that can be his man cave versus my man cave.
I'm trying to find this right now, Matt. As I look at, because we had the early draft slot announcement with the FFPC main event on Sunday afternoon, and I'm looking at
I know mine. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you ended up getting what did you?
I'm on the corner, so I'm in 5 teams, 2 of them with Mike, one with another friend of ours, Iron Falcon John Berdecka. But we've got a 1, a 3, 2 10s, and 11. So we're on the corners.
Okay.
Yeah. So nothing in the middle this year, which would be interesting for prep, but it makes it easier in some ways, right? So you don't have to debate every player. You can focus on some of the key guys.
All right, guys, you've been very gracious with your time. I know I've held on to you a little bit longer than I said I would, but we will follow Mike. We will follow you on Twitter at Mike Stanowski. Matt, we will follow you on Twitter at Matt Marcoux. Gentlemen, good luck in the Pros versus Joes. Good luck in the main event this year, and thanks for making this draft and our show part of your evening. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. From both Matt and Mike. They're drafting in the 1 spot tonight. Good. I mean, and this is what it's all about, right? We love having the guests pop on and talk about their drafts. I'm always a big fan of that. Sometimes we don't get them, and sometimes they come in bunches, right? You just never know what you're going to have. And as a result, I want to get into our next player tonight. Now, if you have noticed him in your Football Guys draft room, that is no surprise since he has been playing in a ton of Football Guys. He's playing in a ton of main events as well, and he's here drafting tonight. A self-proclaimed high-stakes fantasy football enthusiast and data analytics nerd. You just saw him on this program roughly a month or so ago, maybe a little bit less than that. You follow him on Twitter at IrishCEO1337. We will bring him on right now if I can. I'm going to try right now if I can. There we go. There he is, Shane Wingard, ladies and gentlemen.
How's it going? Thanks for having me back.
Number 11 on the draft board, number 1 in your heart, sporting the Steelers helmet. We love it. Tonight, you are 4 rounds in, my friend. Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore. How do you like it so far?
I'm loving it so far. I'm just glad you didn't have me on before so they could see the Steelers helmet. They would have known I was going to take Najee.
Oh yeah, it was all by design. If I can mask stuff, I will on this program. What you got to be happy with Najee Harris falling to you there, and we talked about this.
Yeah.
You're not concerned with the foot being stepped on today either, right, Shane?
No, I watch all the camp reports for every team, so it's just a pretty minor injury.
How did you sort of, and I know it's difficult to kind of guess what you're going to have at the 11th spot in an FFPC draft because so much stuff can happen, but you have done a lot of Football Guys drafts. You kind of know how the first few rounds go. Did you kind of plan on Harris and Mixon, or was it not part of your plan tonight to get either one of those guys?
Yeah, so usually I was only able to see Harris fall that far on the earlier drafts. This is, May and June. I don't think I've seen him fall to the 11th spot at all in the past month. So I was very happy with that. Usually you can, account for Mixon around there. But yeah, I was very happy I was able to grab both of them. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, Najee Harris. Go ahead, Ferrell.
I got a question for you. Dave Terp and I are in agreement of this, that Harris, that his natural home will probably end up being around 11. I think that's what Terp said last night. I've been spending more on Terp. I take him earlier in the first round. Congratulations. Mixon, we've talked about enough. You got a gift when Pittman fell to you.
I've also never seen him. That's
just
usually mid or even early.
So then we get in the 4th round, and I want to ask you, you took DJ Moore before Mike Williams. I wouldn't have done that. Why did you do it?
So Mike Williams, I was thinking about him as well. I like DJ Moore. He's the wide receiver 1 on the team. Obviously, Mike Williams is on a more explosive offense overall, so kind of even out. So I don't know. I was kind of going back and forth between those two and 1 or 2 other picks. So I just ended up pulling the trigger.
Okay.
So, and Shane, this is kind of weird for you because you didn't expect Harris. You didn't expect Pittman. And now as you're, 20% of this draft is done now, you got to be wondering, man, what the heck else are these pros capable of? I'm used to drafting against these Joes, but these pros are kind of throwing a monkey wrench into this.
Yes, and it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, because when you can predict what you think people will choose, you can kind of hone your strategy mid-draft. But when people, go a little early based on ADP to get their guys, sometimes it throws a wrench into the plan.
Shane, we have seen, and one of the things that the YouTube users and the Facebook chatters have continued to say that they're surprised with, and we see it, we've seen it every single night, is naked quarterbacks. Quarterbacks being drafted without stacks. Maybe you form a stack with them later. How do you sort of approach that here? Is that something that you're looking to do when you're looking at drafting a receiver or a quarterback, or is that something that you don't really concern yourself with? If it happens, it happens.
In best ball, if I'm in a tournament, I absolutely concern myself with that. That's more of a priority than a singular league. However, I still think it's one less thing that has to go right. To have a top receiver hitting their a touchdown every week with their quarterback. But I'm not going to reach an ADP for that stack. Not in a single league. In a tournament, I might, just because you want to get those points bunched together.
We're talking with Shane Wingard here, drafting from the 11 spot tonight. The CEO squad, drafted by the Irish CEO here tonight. He of numerous football guys in main event teams this year. Were you happy with where you found out you're drafting in the main event, Shane?
I actually did not get my. I did not pay for everything on time.
Hold on.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, no. Hold on. Maybe I don't have it here. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine.
I paid for 2, but I paid after, and then I'm paying for another 6 or 7.
Are you hoping, because since you've drafted a bunch of football guys, has there been a favorite spot for you this year in drafts?
I like being in the middle, just because you can go with the flow of the draft. I never go into a draft with a plan, ever. I try to take what the draft gives you. If people start going heavy, running back, I pivot and get the best value out of wide receivers, and vice versa. I try to draft based on value and try to get the best ADP value.
Ferrell.
Then again, volume, I try to mix it up as well. If I'm like, I'm going way too running back heavy with all my football guys, I got to mix it up a little bit. Then I might go in with a little bit of a plan.
Ferrell, you have always been a fan of the middle too, right? In drafts.
Well, I will be this year, because I got a 5 and 6 and a 1, so I'm gonna live in the middle. The fellows Marcoux and Mike, they mentioned how really good it is to sit at the ends when you're playing partners, and I can appreciate that. And sometimes if you get in your own head with guys, it's easier to line up 2 that you want. You can kind of direct maybe what's happening with some of your opponents. But in the middle, it's a long wait. It's a long wait till you get to do your thing. But I'll live with it. In the middle here in this draft would be very, very fortunate. And I will announce on the credit rating of the Irish CEO that he's been paid up in Kentucky now for 2 years. He's just we're just waiting to get you to click. So you're in good standing over here, sir. But you won't find out your draft spot until you get here. So.
Which is true of any Kentucky live main event player. So Shane, Pittman and Moore in the 3rd and 4th, both of those guys are getting the ball thrown to them by quarterbacks that are going to go late in this draft, or they should go later, relatively later in this draft. Does that change your quarterback approach when you're thinking about drafting a quarterback? Does that change at all with Pittman and Moore there?
Not necessarily. So in best ball, a little bit, I guess. So I like to either base my 2nd or 3rd quarterback choice based on how early I grab one. So if I grab somebody really elite, I might only go 2 quarterback. If I grab somebody like Josh Allen, who's already been grabbed, I probably won't grab 3. But if I decide to wait a little bit, then I try to grab a stack with one of the lesser receivers like this and try to mix them in with like a semi-elite talent.
We are coming up. We're about 3 picks away from you right now, Shane. We already have 6 tight ends off the board within the first 40 picks of the draft. Does this? Are you looking at tight end here? Are you looking to add on maybe at running back or receiver? Only 2 quarterbacks off the board. Would you be looking at a quarterback? What are you sort of thinking here as your opponents are watching you right now to figure out what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I think at FFPC, you always got to think about tight ends, right? So, you don't want to be left once the scarcity of those top tight ends kind of goes down. But I really wasn't expecting this many to be off the board this quickly. So that's definitely a position of interest. Kind of going back and forth because I could kind of go everywhere because I'm kind of balanced at running back and wide receiver. So it's just kind of whatever value falls to me, to be honest.
What when you look at this draft right now, and I know you're picking here shortly, is there anything else that stands out besides the tight ends going early in this draft tonight to you, Shane?
I think there's a couple picks that were kind of quite early in the first 2 or 3 rounds. I was a little surprised, but again, go and get your guys. I think what was it?
Right.
Travis Etienne was picked pretty.
210 tonight. Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen that actually.
It's not early enough.
According to Terp, not early enough for sure.
It could be. I'm not hating it. Especially with he already has that chemistry with Lawrence, and he's got the pass catching chops we all know from Clemson. I mean, he really could tear it up. So.
Average ADP of the 307 in FFPC best ball tournaments as running back 15. He was running back 12 tonight. We shout out Fantasy Mojo at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter, fantasymojo.com, who will be drafting in this competition tomorrow. Shane, you're on the clock. Tell us what you're thinking here at 5'11".
I decided not to give too much away, and I ended up going with an elite quarterback. So I'm just kind of fly off the board a little earlier than I'm used to, but I guess in best ball, usually that happens. So decided to get in on that.
Okay, so now your rear end is showing here. Everybody knows you have Mahomes. So now what does this do with the Sky Moores and the Marquez Valdez-Scantlings and picks like that, maybe McCole Hardman later? Do those guys become targets, or is it just I'm not going to target them? They happen to get to me. Yeah, I'll look at them.
A little bit of both. What I like about Mahomes is all of his targets are way later, in the draft. So I can kind of sit back, see how my team strengths are. If I'm really light at wide receiver, I can target those stacks. If I'm already set there, I can kind of pivot and go somewhere else.
Joe Burrow goes with the pick after. No surprise. Well, I mean, I guess somewhat of a surprise there, considering that Bob Lung only has Devontae Adams as a receiver. He goes with Joe Burrow as the 5th quarterback off the board, and then Chris Godwin. You're back on the clock, Shane. What are you thinking here?
Well, I guess I could talk about it a little bit since I'm going to pick one. I'm definitely looking at wide receiver here. I'm thinking I'm going to go with the wide receiver 1 for the Bears. I love his target share. He shares that 14 bye week with Pittman, but I think he's going to get at least 130, 140 targets, if not more. I think they're going to funnel that whole offense through him and their tight end. So. And
Terp, you hate that pick, obviously, right?
Love every second of it.
Not saying that'll make them win. Fantasy-wise, it's
every
great.
second of it. All in on the Bears.
Shane, we will continue to follow you on Twitter at Irish CEO 1337. Good luck the rest of this draft. Good luck in the main event. Hopefully you cash that $1 million this year. Maybe the $500,000 in the Football Guys Players Championship as well.
Appreciate
Thanks
it,
so much
Thanks
for hopping
me.
aboard. Awesome stuff, man. Thank you. Shane Wingard, ladies and gentlemen, the Irish CEO, popping in to make a couple of picks on the air. Off to a strong start there, guys. We'll get to our next guest in a couple minutes here, as he is in the green room right now, enjoying the hors d'oeuvres and beverages we put out for him while he waits to make his appearance on the show. But guys, and I know we've fallen behind on the picks, but we're 60 picks in, 64 picks in. Ferrell, is anything standing out to you in this draft? Because we talked about the tight ends, 5 tight ends off the board in the first 40 picks. We talked about the Travis Etienne pick. Is there anything else that you see that you think the listeners and viewers should be aware of here as we go headstrong into the 6th round here?
Let's go to the 3rd round. Maybe they're listening to us talk on the show. Last night I said Higgins should be in the middle of the 3rd round, and there he is. He's dropped all the way from the 2nd round. Terp, you said something about Keenan Allen last night. I think he was 3-2 last night as well, and I see a lot of excellent receivers passed over for Keenan Allen. I appreciate Keenan Allen, but I think he's an end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th round pick. And that's what I'm on early. Tyreek Hill seems to settle. I'm still surprised that Gabriel Davis is in the middle of the 5th round, and I'm glad he is, because that bodes well for the wide receivers that I want to draft in the same area. And it looks like Sutton, guys, is just going to keep climbing.
Terp, any favorite teams that you see when you look at these boards now that everybody has at least 5 players on their squad? Any team standing out as really good, strong starts that you like, that you would be a fan of if you had that team?
Both of our guests so far are extremely solid. I really like what 1 did, really like what 11 did. Besides them, 7 is a team I'm a fan of. There's not really any team that I would say isn't solid through 6 rounds except for Team 12. Really have no idea what they're doing. Too many running backs for me. Joe Burrow, naked with nobody with him. Chris Godwin's a question. That team's not for me.
All right, so that's not for you. But what's interesting is the 3 teams you singled out was obviously Marcoux and Stanowski from the 1 spot, obviously Shane Wingard from the 11, and then the 7 spot is former main event champion Phil Hooton, who is drafting there, probably with his uncle Jerry, I would guess. I can't say that for sure, but that'd be my guess there. Let's talk and let's bring on another FFPC Joe. He's drafting from the 9 spot tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He is the Hurricane on Twitter at No Logistics. It is John Hurd. Welcome into the program, my friend. It is so good to have you on again. And I don't know why you're not showing up here. Let's try to bring you on again. And still getting a blind. There you go, John Hurd, ladies and gentlemen. John, welcome in, man.
What's up, guys?
Love the T-shirt.
Hey, look, you gotta have
John,
it.
Don't love the Derrick Henry pick, though.
All right, so we'll get into that in a second. Before we get into your draft, John, are you drafting with Bo tonight, your co-manager?
No, so I'm not drafting with Bo tonight. I am drafting with a good friend of mine. Bo's actually taking it off this year with me with the FFPC. So I picked up a Jedi. I won't disclose his name, but he's a really good horse player. If any of you guys like horses, he might be known as the best horse player on the planet. So, I decided to try to go a different route this year and see what happens.
Well, so let's talk about now. Terp's not a huge fan of Derrick Henry at the 109 for you tonight. When you were looking at the board after the first 8 picks went off, why was Henry the selection that you thought made the most sense for this squad?
Man, honestly, it's just because he's a beast and he's reliable. That's my main reason why. I mean, he had surgery, whatever. But with Derrick Henry, and if he's just he's going to give me the production I need in the first round. So, I mean, that was really the pick because I think he's going to be the offense.
John, also, you get Josh Allen in the 3rd. Are you looking to pair him up with some Bills later on in the draft? Or is he
bad, baby?
What's that?
Yeah, I'm it.
Oh, we might be having some connection issue with John here.
Looks that way.
Yeah. John, let me pop you out for right now, and we will come back to you here shortly because I want to make sure that you guys get ample time to make your next pick here. But we definitely want to revisit. And obviously, John going not one of 2 teams tonight, and you can make the case 1 of 3 teams with Hockenson now going in the 6th round. 1 of 3 teams, and quite frankly, 1 of 4 teams. Guys, I'm just picking up on this right now. We have 4 teams, Ferrell, with quarterback and tight end through the first 6 rounds. I don't think we've seen that in the first 4 drafts, have we?
No, I don't think we have. The stack is becoming the rule. Hey, Terp, I've got an idea that I'd like to ask you.
Go for it.
You don't like Team 12, and I know why. What can Team 12 do if you were to be tag teamed and you would come in to draft? Don't you think there's receivers out there that could rescue this team and that he would have an advantage at the running back positions? I know without talking about the individual players, I think you're down on all those players except Cook. But don't you think there's enough receiver volume available in this draft for him to still
There's definitely plenty of receiver volume available. It's just there's just so many picks that if they were just one guy, like for instance, it's Elliott and Connor. If that was Sutton and Mike Williams, this team looks totally different.
Yeah.
So many more options. I feel like you're kind of stuck right now because you have Chris Godwin as your number 2 receiver when pretty much everybody's stacking receivers. And there's a lot of questions surrounding him. The talent's there, obviously, but you still don't know if he's going to be 100% to start the season.
Right. That's up to now, and I understand that. So I'm saying, who's next?
We've talked about plenty of guys: the Sky Moores, the Treylon Burks, the Kadarius Tonys, Christian Kirks. Definitely
he's got 2 picks coming up, 7 and 8. Who would you spend them on? That's what I want to know.
Well, if it's me coming up,
that's who it is.
Kadarius Toney would be one. I don't think he's been drafted yet. That's easy. And probably Treylon Burks. He's my guy. He's a guy that I've been drafting pretty much every single day and will be drafting every single day until the season starts. They would be my 2 picks.
So he would be the first pick. He would be the first pick of the 8th round. Is that how far is that above his ADP?
My guess is a round and a half.
Okay.
And this is for Burks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Treylon Burks in this format, wide receiver 42 at the 902 on average.
Yeah,
that's a good place for him. So let me ask you and then I'll get off this.
Of course.
Let me know what you love about Burks, because I'm going to go back and look at the film and look for it. Because I appreciate your opinion and respect your decision making, and I want to win our bet. And I'm not nervous about winning our bet, but I'm nervous that I might be overlooking something on Burks, and maybe I should add him to some of my teams. Would you please tell me
everything you're looking for in a receiver?
Number one,
AJ Brown's not there anymore. Opportunity,
okay,
talent, speed, draft capital. Realistically, not many guys behind him. Robert Woods coming off an injury. He's still a very, very good NFL receiver. Not discounting him at all. No real tight end option. Austin Hooper is questionable in some people's eyes. And a team that teams will try to stack the box and beat and let Ryan Tannehill beat them this year. There's no fear factor of A.J. Brown. He's going to get plenty of opportunity on the outside, plenty of speed. He's having a great camp so far. Not that means anything because they're in shorts. So it's hard to take that, for what it is. But all positive, since the little hiccups early about the conditioning.
Right.
Everything since then has been positive. In my opinion, he's only going to move up higher in drafts. He's definitely a guy that we know I like him, but the opportunity is so high. There's nobody behind him.
When you watched him in college ball and then going through the scouting and the draft process,
he was my number 2 receiver coming out of the draft.
That's when you fell. Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we got a lot of Burke stuff out of the way here, guys, and that was very therapeutic and for everyone involved. I think we all appreciate it. But what people would also appreciate is John Hurd coming back into the broadcast right now. We're going to bring John Hurd back in right now. Hopefully the connection's a little bit better and the internet gods will cooperate. As John is on the clock right now, John, what are you thinking here at the 7:10?
Man, 7:09. Tony Pollard.
Yeah, Tony Pollard here.
I don't like Zeke. I think Zeke is hurt, and I think that if he does, and my bet is right, I'll have a starter in Pollard.
John, 5 tight ends were off the board, and then when it came back to you at the 404, you took Dalton Schultz. Was that a reaction to you sensing that maybe the tight ends would get pushed up a little bit more tonight than they had in previous pros versus Joes?
Yeah, I just felt that a lot of tight ends were going to go, and that was the reason for it. That's exactly right. Look, I've been at this game a long time, as you know. In 2012, I was in the lead for the FBC, and on the last weekend, I lost it. It's just unfortunate. I had a guy get hurt at halftime, and I squandered down to the top 10. But I had a chance to win it 2 years ago. I was in 15th overall in the in the FFPC. Last year, I should have been in the FFPC. I should have finished 15th again. I wound up finishing 3rd in the consolation because Tyler Bass missed a field goal in the wind against New England, and all I needed was 3 points to get into the FFPC, and I'd have been finished 15th the last 2 years. But it's okay. I'll take 3rd in consolation. I had a chance to win that.
Right.
And, just some bad beats with FFPC over the years. But, I love drafting. I could do this in my sleep. It's really not too much preparation when you follow football. And, I bet on football, as well. I've played the Super Contest in Vegas and Circa, and I finished in the top 100 in those. I finished in the top 10 online in the Bet Online Super Contest. So, you know, I've been around playing this for a while. And so, I feel like I'm comfortable and I know football.
Yeah, and you do, and show the listeners and viewers why you know football here at the 804. You already have 3 running backs. You already have a couple of receivers. Quarterback and tight end are taken care of. Where are you adding on to this roster here, John?
Yeah, you know, right here, I think I'm just going to have to go receiver. I'll probably shock some people with this pick, but I'm going down to New Orleans where my hometown is, and I'm taking Chris Olave, baby, because he's been a beast in camp.
All right, so this is interesting now with Olave going off the board. We saw Michael Thomas go in the 6th round tonight. We had a Jameis Winston discussion on the program last night, John. Why is Olave the guy for you in New Orleans this year? He's just the talent is that good, or the combination
man, I watched a lot of training camp and especially back home, and I got some inside information because one of my friends is an exec for the Saints. So, I mean, you know, they really like this guy. They big on him. So I'm big on him.
And so Olave here goes in the 8th round, could be a potential league winner here too. Amon-Ra St. Brown came on at the end of last year. And even with the addition of Jameson Williams, you felt Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to continue that domination. And that's why you made him your pick at the 509, right?
Yeah, he played really well last year. And that's exactly why I did that. You know, I'm looking for a receiver position for high flyers that have speed and that are reliable like Thielen. I don't think Thielen had as good a year he could have had last year. Obviously, for he's got Jefferson back there, but I mean, I'll go back to the bank on Thielen for sure. And that's why in this draft I went running back to kind of stack it, and then I just took the best quarterback and took the best available tight end at that point with all the other tight ends getting taken. I just didn't want to let Josh Allen fall to the 4th round. That's basically why I did that. So I have a question for my guy Ferrell. Ferrell, you're a horse player, huh?
I've been known to be, sir. 2017, Always Dreaming was my best score ever, and I've sort of retired after that one because I knew I could never replicate it.
Nice. Yeah, I actually
I've been to Jefferson Park before on many a day.
So I'm gonna give you this. I had never been to Kentucky Derby in my life. I show up, and a good friend of mine, maybe he might be in my ear right now. We showed up to the Kentucky Derby. He was friends with the California Chrome contingency, and we ended up in the winner's circle. And that was the first time I ever been to Kentucky Derby. And I had 2 cell phones in my pocket. We're on national television. My phones are blowing up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in the winner's circle, baby. And then the next time I went, the Saints. God rest his soul, Mr. Benson had 2 horses in a race, and it was the only other time I went to the Kentucky Derby, and I ended up in the mansion. And if y'all don't know what the mansion is, it's the highest level of the Kentucky Derby. It's a $15,000 buy-in a day, and a buddy of mine gave me tickets to get in, and wound up making picks, and the Saints owners were there, and I hung out with them, and it was just an unbelievable experience. So I mean, those are things
always happen in Kentucky, Hurricane.
All you gotta do is show up.
I got to tell you, showing up, and I love your hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana. There's no better place in the world. So we are we can exchange our love of those 2 destinations. Because
you should follow me on Twitter because I play horse tournaments. There's a contest, the NAC, and there's a tour for horse players. The Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. I actually shot the pilot for the show Horse Players with the guy in my ear. And I'm giving a lot of secrets out right now on who's in my ear. And he was on the show, and he was one of the main characters. And that's how I met him. And, the history was history. But he won the World Championships, the World Series. So he's a really good horse player. So I've kind of taught him what I know about fantasy football. He's taught me about horses. And we've kind of combined our knowledge on that and done really well with this.
You can't stop a hurricane of knowledge, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir. You always got to be a student.
Yes. And bringing the horse world and the fantasy football world together is just one of the many things we accomplish here in the high stakes fantasy.
Yeah, and you also gotta, like we played in the DraftKings betting challenge. We did all right now. We were in the top 10. It was the inaugural one up in New Jersey. So we've done a lot of fun things with different sports. So it's good to see that, we got a Ferrell in here who's a fellow horseman.
Yeah, you in the winner's circle get to know each other very well at every venue you attend. So, yeah, keep getting out there, brother.
I like it, man.
Follow John on Twitter at No Logistics. John, good luck the rest of the way and in the main event this year, man. Thanks for popping
Hey,
on.
guys, I appreciate that. Who dat, baby?
Who dat indeed. The Hurricane, John Hurd, joining us on the program tonight.
There's a guy who loves to live.
Yeah, he
sure
loves
does.
to live. Exactly. Giving us a lot of reasons, too, tonight. So, guys, we are now through 8 rounds here. It looks
Well,
like.
why don't you recap the draft, Balky?
Yeah, all right. So where did I leave off here? Okay, so just about 70 picks to go through here. And I would like to say we're going to get back to it, but the guest line just keeps popping off tonight. I want to bring in one of the OGs of high-stakes fantasy football now, a guy who's been doing it before I even knew what high-stakes fantasy football was, one of the most accomplished high-stakes players I know, a guy who's won a boatload of FFPC leagues, football guys leagues, and we want to welcome him into the program tonight. It is the one, the only, as I screw up on my computer right now, it is the one, the only Lou Tranquilli popping aboard tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lou Tranquilli, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
Drafting from the 3rd spot tonight. Okay, first question's an easy one here, Lou. How do you rate your draft here? 8 picks in.
Oh, my team sucks. Are you kidding? Like, what? Everybody else is, just wailing away at me. I got
hate receivers. What are you doing?
I'm on the clock right now, so let's.
Yeah, what are you doing here, Lou? With this pick, this is the 903 pick tonight. 3 running backs, couple of receivers, couple of tight ends, and a quarterback. What are you thinking here?
I am actually thinking another quarterback, although I don't want to give away any secrets. I was just listening to your previous guest, and I apologize, I didn't catch his name, but because I was so focused on the draft. But I just want to say that I went to Saratoga racetrack a week or so ago, and I lost a bunch of money there too. So I suck at that as well. You know what? I really wanted the quarterback, but I think I'm going to take a wide receiver just for the hell of it. Here we go. The guys, I've got the excellent ADP up here from our friend Fantasy Mojo.
Oh, Jesus. Why him?
All right. Okay.
That won't hurt you.
Everybody calm down here.
I think I
was so excited to have you on the show tonight, and you come on and you take Alan Lazard.
I did. I did it. Yeah, he is. I mean, he is a polished turd. There's no doubt about it. As receivers go, there's no doubt. But he's got a halfway decent quarterback throwing him the football, and he's a halfway decent wide receiver on a team that's desperate for even a halfway decent wide receiver, in my opinion. So, I look at Green Bay and think they're not changing what they're doing. They're throwing the football because the best player on the team is the quarterback. So you don't hand the ball off, 50 times a game. So. I do. I actually like Alan Lazard. I'm one of those people.
9th round Lazard is way better than 6th round Lazard.
Well, who the hell took him in the 6th round?
No one tonight, because you have him
I
in the
took him in the 9th. What do you give me a grief for?
I mean, that's what I'm here for, to give you grief.
Yeah, you know what, Terp, and you always can as well. And by the way, it is great to see the 3 of you on screen. Balky, I've got a great picture of someone with a similar beard that I really would love to share with everybody, but
from the Civil War era, because
it is not. No, it's more recent than that. But so anyway, the Etienne pick was Etienne seems to have elicited some scoffing. I'll tell you what, I can't believe I got Jonathan Taylor at 3rd overall, because it would have been DeAndre Swift if it weren't Jonathan Taylor. So
I was just going to ask you that question. You said you were going to be surprised at 3 if it wasn't Taylor or Cup.
Yeah, the one that got the surprise was me. I'm stunned by that. Hey, and I've always said as part of being a high stakes player, and of course giving advice all those years ago, you take who you like. Player preference is not anything, if you will, to comment on. So Christian McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp, I mean, seem like pretty great picks to me as well. I'm just glad I got Jonathan Taylor at the 3rd spot.
So, Lou, let's talk about that start, because obviously you're thrilled to get Taylor. You talked about the ETN pick, obviously. So knowing you already have those 2 running backs, what was the thought process on adding a 3rd one right away at 303 and Nick Chubb?
Well, it's Nick Chubb. I mean, the first 6 weeks look like they're pretty well set to be the Nick Chubb show, along with Kareem Hunt. Jacoby Brissett is a better NFL quarterback than me, and I'll give him that. And we'll leave it right there.
That?
Yeah, yes, I am sure about that much, but I don't know that he's going to be more than a hold the fort guy for the first 6 weeks. So with that, I just I figured why not take Nick Chubb? He's an excellent running back, obviously. So I wanted 3 running backs, if you will, that I believe if I didn't draft another running back tonight, could carry the team. And I think between Taylor and Chubb, you're looking at, I mean, if things go well, you could be looking at 600 carries between the two of them. Throw in Travis there, and you could be looking at 75 receptions from the young man. I think that's a solid start. I don't usually take 3 of any specific position to start any drafts, simply because I will be wrong about one of them. That's just seems, that's a highly anecdotal statement, nothing scientific about it. But in the past, I'll say seen that it just doesn't necessarily work out that way.
Lou, have you, I mean, I know you went Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, back-to-back picks. Do you do that in football guys drafts and main event where you hunt stacks when you're not really on the turn here, but you're pretty close, where you look at the board and you're like, oh, I could get this quarterback and his number 1 receiver here. I'm all over that. Is that something that you look for?
If I can make it happen, bulky, I do. Especially, Lamar and Bateman, of course, the conversation is around how much they're going to run the football. But newsflash for everyone, and I think all these great drafters in the room tonight know this already, but for everyone else, the Ravens are actually going to throw the football in 2022. They will do it. Somebody other than Mark Andrews will catch a pass, and I think that's going to be Rashad Bateman. So, you send off Marquise Brown to Arizona, and you leave last year's. I think he was a first-round pick, wasn't he last year? Yeah, you leave him alone. Well, I mean, why not stand on top of the roof and say, we're going to throw the ball to Rashad Bateman? It seems pretty easy to me. So yes is the answer. If I can stack like that, I'll do it. I don't go looking for it, but if I can make it happen like I did, to me, that's just a no-brainer.
So Lou, one of the questions we have in the YouTube chat is from Matt Bingham right now, and he wants to know if you're concerned that the 3 receivers you have in your team so far all play on he didn't say suck, but they all play on potentially low volume pass offenses. Now, you already talked about you believe the Packers are still going to throw this year because they have Aaron Rodgers. You talked a little bit about Rashad Bateman and how with no Marquise Brown there, somebody besides Mark Andrews has to catch the football, and it's Bateman, and then Claypool as well in the 8th round. We know Ferrell loves Chase Claypool, but what are your concerns with 3 guys who are not on, let's just say, not the most elite passing attacks in the NFL right now?
Well, I don't know. You have the NFL MVP is throwing the football to one of my wide receivers and using Doug Orth at FF Today's stats because he's in the draft room, so we have to properly respect him. And they've always done a great job. Packers were 7th in wide receiver points scored last year. Not so bad. I can handle that. Ravens, not great, 20th, but I'll take it. Scored 30 points on average per week. And then who's my 3rd wide receiver? I don't even remember. I'm looking at the difference.
Chase Claypool.
Chase Claypool, yeah.
Yeah, Chase Claypool. So I love Deontay Johnson. He's on a couple of dynasty teams. I think Chase Claypool, year 3 in the league. They've talked about some maturity issues. They've talked about bringing him along. They've drafted some replacements in case he completely whiffs. I don't think he whiffs. I think the Steelers are going to need Chase Claypool to be a good football player, and he is a good football player. So, sure, are they low volume passing offenses? They are, but I would also state that last year with Big Ben, the Steelers wide receivers had 250 receptions. They were 12th in the league in wide receiver points scored, 36.5 a game. I like Chase Claypool to get 15 of those and have a couple of blow up weeks in there. So I just think the wide receiver position, and we all have the misery known as Jeff Fisher to thank for this, has become a real wide receiver by committee on a lot of NFL teams. It's really difficult, but that also provides value for a lot of these players that aren't the Jamar Chase, or Justin Jefferson. I know how much everybody likes him, but bottom line is that he's got a really good wide receiver across from an Adam Thielen as well. So, I just think the wide receiver position is, in one man's opinion, a tad overvalued these days.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Lou, you are on deck here. We just talked about your squad here. 3 receivers. You have the 3 running backs, already 2 tight ends and a quarterback. So you're very well balanced here going into the 10th round. It gives you the opportunity to do a lot of different things. You could add a 4th receiver, go with a 4th running back. Obviously, for the uninitiated, in the pros versus Joes or an FFPC format, it's 2 flexes. So you could play up to 4 running backs each week. And this is best ball, obviously. So that could really help you out. You're on the clock here at the 10-10, Lou. What's going to be the pick?
Well, I thought. How do I?
There it is.
Of course, it's got to be Aaron Rodgers. Come on, that's easy. Yeah.
Always stacked.
Yep. Jackson and Bateman, Lazard and Rodgers, back to back. I love it. It makes a lot of sense.
Just make sure you get Romeo sometime.
Well, now, yeah, and we'll see where he goes tonight. He had a quiet day in practice. For anybody who's wondering, I talked with people at Packers practice today. It was a quiet day for Romeo Doubs.
They have pads on today?
No, tomorrow's pads.
We'll see if Romeo steps up tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see him in some pads, getting knocked around a little bit. Can I just comment on Twitter? So, I mean, you all know this because we've been around each other a long, long time. I had a fantasy football website that we'll say I sold just as Twitter was becoming a thing. Podcasting was blowing up, which was awesome. All good. Glad I did it, and glad to have provided that advice. But I'm so glad it wasn't the day-to-day practice reports, because you know what? It's confusing as hell. I mean, literally, you get a tweet of Rashad Bateman running a 5-yard in, and somebody with a quote saying, if he keeps this up, he's going to be, like a top 10 wide receiver. I don't remember exactly what the tweet.
He moves up 2 rounds.
He was in shorts and a helmet, and there were no defenders on the field. Like, What the hell are you talking about? So I'm awfully glad that I'll say I missed this part of analysis, because it is absurd. What I read, Mac Jones went off the field unhappy yesterday. Well, how's this? I closed the office door this afternoon. I was pissed. All right. What the hell was that all about?
That's good stuff.
Nobody cared. Yeah, nobody cared. It was
who's the new coach for the Bucs now? Todd Bowles, right?
Todd Bowles.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Todd Bowles gave a side eye to Leonard Fournette as he picked out 2 burgers in the lunch line at training camp today instead of just 1 chicken sandwich.
That's real news, Bob.
That's
exactly
real.
Right.
Okay, so now I've taken
that news cost that news last week or 2 weeks ago cost a lot of drafters or helped a lot of drafters who got him in the late 3rd round, mid-3rd round in some drafts.
I get a giant kick out of it. I mean, again, I'm not disappointed to have missed that part. And now, in all seriousness, I love going on Twitter, reading all this stuff, and of course, comments are hysterical at times.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun. But it all, the analysis is I'll say too quick. Even it just is absurd to me. So. Anyway, that's just me railing.
And I think you make up a good point. I mean, it's understandable, and we need to sometimes take the context is king, right? Not content, but context is king when you're talking about reading stuff on Twitter from beat writers and considering the source, right? Context, agendas, and considering the source, very, very important when we're reading everything that's coming at our face at 1,000,000 miles an hour with 32 training camps going on right now. Lou, you're on the clock again here in the 11th round. Again, still well balanced. 2 hookups here in the Packers and the Ravens. What are we thinking here at the 11:03?
Feel good about it. You know what? I'm actually going to take somebody I just want to take right now. Okay. I mean, I do that every time, but this time I just want to take a complete buzz guy who, I mean,
number 1 owned player right there.
Yeah. That's your Twitter guy all the way right there.
All aboard.
He
was free for a while. He's not free anymore.
No, not anymore. But what the thing of it is, now I've got to build to to create explosion. In all seriousness, you're really not expecting Alan Lazard to blow up for 30 in a week. That's not generally the player that he is. So if I keep that in mind, then I do have to look for some of the players that are going to have those blow up weeks during this fantasy season. And this group of management drafted him in the second round. That's real draft capital, and he's playing. That's that. I mean, Kenny Golladay, I'll dare say I've always been a fan from the standpoint of, might have overrated what a player he is.
He was really good in Detroit.
Yeah, well, I didn't overrate him like the bonehead GM, and I'm totally drawing a blank right now and paying me $84 million. But Ferrell, what are you drinking, man?
Brother, that's from our private stock. You got to come here in person to have some.
Oh man, that's all right.
Always selling Kentucky.
That is the one. That is the one barrel Ferrell.
When you're selling a product that can't miss, what can you do?
You gotta jump in and sell the product. That's it. So I've got to look for players that have those explosive weeks in them, and I think Wandale is one of them in this one.
And we obviously know you've had your share of explosive years. We think you're one of the great high-stakes fantasy football players, Lou, and we wish you nothing but the best, not only in the rest of this draft, but cashing that $1 million in the main event this year. We'll see you in Vegas, right? Planet Hollywood, you'll be there?
Unfortunately, this year I cannot make it. There is someone sitting to my left, to your right. I really would like her to step in because I think Ferrell would like to say hello for sure.
Don't let that girl come to Las Vegas without you, Lou.
That's it. Come and say hello. Come on. This is somebody in your ear. This is who's in my ear.
There we go.
Bulky, Terp, Ferrell. Yeah, you guys have met. So yeah. So anyway, that's the side. The side person in my ear, a little bit different than somebody else giving away all their secrets.
Right.
I've given you all my crappy wide receivers.
Lou, it's always a pleasure to chat fantasy football or whatever with you, man. Thanks for hopping on board.
See you, brother.
Appreciate it.
Keep up the great work. Thanks.
Thank you. Lou Tranquilli, ladies and gentlemen, popping on the board, drafting from the number 3 spot tonight. Good stuff from him. Man, I miss his content that he would.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
I owe him so much in this business.
And you guys know, like, he was the unofficial third co-founder of the FFPC.
He was.
Well. Yeah.
I remember I was with him at BFD when he had to sell, and it was tough. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But
do you guys recall the coaching tree as part of
know.
Oh, that was
so
the Dizzle.
One of the best articles on the internet.
The Dizzle still talks about the coaching tree to this day. It was awesome.
I gave the coaching tree to a couple of very successful agents, and they said, "Where did you get this? This is gold. We have to work on this." And even though you live with it every day, seeing the work is fantastic. He should just do that.
Spent a ton of time on that. It was
should
great
just
work.
publish the coaching tree.
He should. I mean, it was an exceptional article.
Yes, it was.
Let's welcome in yet another exceptional guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He is the 2020 FFPC main event co-champ of a $500,000 grand prize. We want to welcome him in right now. It is Jerry Hooten. Jerry, welcome to the broadcast, man. Oh, there he is. Hold on. A little bit of a delay. There he is. I think we got him. Do we have him? You guys seeing him?
I'm here.
Okay. Jerry, welcome aboard, man. Happy to have you, dude. How are you doing?
We're doing fine.
How is that?
Spending money. We're just spending money. That's all we're doing.
So at the 7 spot tonight, so are you drafting with Phil tonight as well?
Well, you don't think I'll leave him to do this by himself, do you?
No, I don't. I just didn't know if he was assisting you or if you're doing this solo.
Yeah, I'm giving him crap because he's on the phone with me.
I got you. Okay. All right. So you're on. Am I seeing this right? You're on the clock right now. What are you thinking here in the 11th round?
I don't know. We're paused, aren't we?
Are we paused? We might be. I don't have it open. No, I think we are paused. We are paused. Yeah, somebody there must be something going on. I see there's an auto pick here from Team 5 tonight, which was Bill Van Ormer. So we might be rolling that back. While we wait for that, Jerry, how do you're halfway done with this draft? What are you thinking of it? Is this a strong team? Is this good enough to win the whole thing? Is it what you thought you were going to get when you started drafting tonight?
Yeah, for the most part, this is the way we normally structure our teams, or try to, anyways. We were high-fiving ourselves when we thought we were going to get a Hurts in the 7th round, and Pat did his double tap. Probably the first time he's ever double tapped quarterbacks in his life.
It goes Murray and Jalen Hurts there. Obviously, that stinks for you guys. Well, you went receivers, and like we talk about, Lou Tranquilli just brought up how receivers might be a little bit overrated in this format, but you guys go with 4 receivers in the first 6 picks. Was that sort of your formula for success 2 years ago when you won that $500,000?
Well, that's a redraft league. This is best ball. It's different. But yeah, when we do best ball, this is exactly the way we like to set it up. Try to get one anchor running back. If you can get a high flying tight end or a quarterback, and then just cramming as many wide receivers you get in there until you got to start taking something else.
Did you and Phil expect DeAndre Swift to make it back to you in the second round? That was nice value there, man.
No, we started looking on the internet to make sure he didn't die this afternoon.
Seriously.
In Vegas, Kenny Golladay started falling down the board, and was, what the hell's going on? And we didn't hear that. I don't even remember what happened to him, but a couple of years ago, it was funny how all of a sudden he just fell off the map the morning of the drafts. I forget what happened to him.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank as well, but I do remember the precipitous fall that he went through that one morning. Brandon Cooks in the 5th round here for you. This is a player that wherever he goes, whoever he plays under, whatever quarterback's throwing to him, he puts up numbers. And obviously, Jerry, in the 5th round, what are your expectations for him this year?
I just hope he stays healthy all year and he'll be fine. He's going to get the volume. Who else are they going to throw the ball to? I guess Nico, maybe, but as long as he stays healthy, he'll be fine.
Was the Derek Carr pick in the 10th round, was that, predicated basically because you had Waller in the 3rd and you wanted to get that stack there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Elijah Moore, let's talk a little bit about him. Oh, I believe are we on pause now? Well, here we go. All right. Back to showtime here, ladies and gentlemen. Jerry Hooton about to be on the clock. Had to roll it back a couple of picks, but we are back here live. Now, to bring the listeners into this situation here right now, you will have the 2 running backs. You have a tight end. You're obviously deep at receiver here. You're looking at 5 receivers on your squad already, and you're already 2 deep at quarterback with Trey Lance and Derek Carr on your squad. What are you and Phil thinking here as you are on deck here? This is the 1107 pick. What are you thinking for this pick right here, Jerry?
We're definitely going to take a green one, and it's probably going to be Hines. I think he's got a role in that offense from day one, and they don't mind giving him the ball at the goal line too. I've seen him spread the field out, and run a trap draw on him. So we really like Hines here.
You get Hines here at the 1107. Josh Jacobs continues to fall, Jerry. What's been your and Phil's attitude now that Jacobs has been falling in drafts? I mean, you scooped him up tonight in the mid-7th. Is this something that you'll continue to do as August rolls on here?
Absolutely. You will never see Jacobs go past us in the 7th round. We'll take him there every time. I know there's a talk about committee and this and that, but he's the best running back in that backfield. And when it comes, game time, they're going to give the ball to the best guy. He's going to be fine.
And in the 7th round, this is a great buying opportunity for him.
Absolutely.
Because you probably won't get him at this spot later on, especially if he makes some plays here. Trey Lance, this is kind of an unknown this year. But as we have stated multiple times on this broadcast, both tonight and the previous 4, second place gets nothing. So you got to draft to win. And Trey Lance, Jerry, is a big pick to win this year, not only in this draft, but in the main event as well.
Absolutely. And that's another reason why we went with Carr, because then we got the upside guy with Lance, and then Carr should be a pretty good floor quarterback. So I think we got both ends covered there. We'll get another one later on in life because we always get 3. I don't know. Going 2 just seems thin to me. When you got 20 rounds, I just think getting the 3rd quarterback there's value there.
Even if you go, let's say, and I know that you don't normally do this, but let's say you went Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson early, would you still be looking for a third quarterback late?
I never have that problem because you're right. I don't take Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. I had taken a quarterback in the 4th round. I've taken Diggs a bunch because I really think he's probably the safest play in the 1st round. And in the 3rd round,
our butts in the main event.
And he saved our butts in the main event. We've been on Diggs ever since he was a rookie, and he's just been our favorite player.
So let just to go through that. Now you're still about 4 or 5 picks away here, but what was that like? Seeing the end of that 2020 season in Week 16 and seeing that massive output on Monday Night Football from the Bills, and how did you and Phil celebrate? I know you told this story before, but I'd like the listeners and the viewers to hear it again.
Well, it just it came down to the end. The guy we were competing against had Josh Allen, and we had Diggs,
and the kicker,
and he also had Tyler Bass, and I didn't think we were going to catch him, but Diggs just caught damn near every pass in the second half.
Down the stretch, yes, he did.
2 touchdowns. Well, anybody, his last touchdown, and after the extra point, we had like a 0.45 lead, but there was still 7 minutes left to go in the game. And any Tyler Bass kick beats us. So I told Phil that it's going to come down to, is Tyler Bass going to make or miss a kick for $500,000? And luckily, both teams just played in the middle of the field, never came close.
And you cashed the 500,000. So now refresh my memory here. Did you invest in some real estate with that money, or what did you do with it?
I'm sitting in it right now as we speak.
There you go. A fantastic story. Fantastic. From Jerry and Phil Hooten, the 2020 FFPC main event champs. You guys have already won a Terminator overall, is right?
Yeah, in 2018, and came in the same year we won the main event. We came in second.
Terminator, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. So next. Certainly, you are having the opportunity to really destroy a lot of industry pros tonight, and I think you got a solid draft going on here from the 7th spot. So you're coming up on the 12:06 right now. You're on deck. We're looking at your squad, healthy at receiver. You just added the running back in the last round. Already got the 2 quarterbacks. Darren Waller is your lone tight end. What are you and Phil thinking here for your next pick, Jerry?
Well, I guess I got 2 guys I could live with. We're going to go running back again. We're probably going to get a little green heavy, sparkle a little purple along the way, but it's slopping up some running back time now.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that when you go receiver so heavy so early, it's important to grab these kind of one injury away or backup running backs now the rest of the way, correct?
Yeah, we normally our preferred is we go yellow early and yellow late, and then fill everything else in the middle.
Sort of like a I don't know what it would be, some sort of a green sandwich with yellow bread, something like that. The spoiled cold cut sandwich with the heavy butter on the bread. I don't know how else to describe it here. You're on the clock. Which running back is it going to be, Jerry?
I don't know. What do you think, Philip? Carter?
Yeah, I want Carter.
You want to go with Gainwell just for the hell of it?
No, I want to go Carter.
You want to go Carter? All right.
Carter.
Can't talk him out of it. All right, go Carter.
Final question here. It comes from Matt Bingham, and it's for you, Jerry. He wants to know if you draft differently in Terminator than you do in a traditional best ball. There's not a lot of content out there for Terminator, so he'd love to hear from you and Phil, 2 guys who have done very, very well in the FFPC Terminator.
Yes, in the Terminator, I don't like drafting rookies either. But anyways, but in the Terminator, they're tough. Because you got to start eliminating people, and you got a rookie sitting on the bench for the first 8 weeks before he blows up. That's kind of risky. So I normally stick with veterans, and I don't mind taking a few older running backs and hope to get 2 or 3 games out of them, and then away they go.
That's true. Not a bad way to do it. Jerry, we really appreciate you hopping aboard on the broadcast tonight. Always appreciate your insight. Former guest on this show, the High Stakes Lowdown. Obviously, you're always welcome here. And good luck the rest of the way, man. Not only winning this Pros versus Joe's League, but maybe 2 main event championships in 3 years. That would be certainly unbelievable, and the $1 million. So you could buy yourself some more real estate. Man.
There's only one team more upset than us. And that's the team who won the $500,000 last year before they turned it into $1 million contest.
It's a great point.
What
That's
the
a
hell
great
up with
point.
that?
Jerry, appreciate you, man. Be good. Thanks so much for popping on.
You bet. Thanks for having
Have
us
a good
on.
one.
Take care.
Thank you. Jerry
Hey,
Hooten,
Jerry.
ladies and gentlemen, the 2020 FFPC main event co-champ, along with his nephew, Phil Hooten, and the 2018, as you heard, FFPC Terminator champs. It just took Michael Carter here in the 12th round. What a bevy of great guests tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not proud to say, but happy to say we could take a breath here as we have nobody else in the queue right now. For now, but we'll see what happens if anybody pops up. But one other thing I should bring up, we actually had some technical difficulties on the YouTube and Facebook chat. That has been fixed. It's actually been fixed for some time, thanks to our boy, our man, FFPC man, Aiden, who fixed that, and I really appreciate Aiden. So to have that fixed. So feel free to pop aboard the chats. Those are back up and running now. As we move on to in the FFPC Pros versus Joes League number 5, it's Ferrell, Elliott, it's Dave Terpoilli, and it's me, Eric Balkman, bringing it to you live here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. What do we want to talk about here, guys? I guess I can recap the 12th round here. I don't want to go back any further than that. The rookie Damian Pierce goes to Bob Lung, followed by Tim Patrick to Shane Winger. Daryl Henderson, the third consecutive running back drafted by Liam Murphy here from the 10 spot. Jacoby Myers goes to John Hurd. Jalen Tolbert, we were wondering where he was going to go tonight. We'll talk about him in a minute. But the GOAT District's Dan Williamson, the overhyped sleeper, takes Jalen Tolbert here in the 12th. Hopefully Jalen Tolbert is not an overhyped sleeper this year for those who have drafted him. Michael Carter, you heard that pick from the Hootens live on air. Albert Okuwepanam is backing up Travis Kelce for Pat Kerrane here in the 12th round. Kenneth Gainwell, the guy that the Hootens were deciding between him and Michael Carter. Well, the Billy Boys, Team 5, actually scooped him up there. That was Bill Van Ormer. Grabs him. Tyler Allgaier goes to Doug Orth. Jahan Dotson, another rookie here, to Lou Tranquilli. And then David Njoku and Deshaun Watson, a pair of Browns, complete the 12th round tonight. Let's go back to Jalen Tolbert. Ferrell, I'll pitch this to you right away. We heard the news today that James Washington might have a Jones fracture in his foot, which usually takes a long time to heal, especially if you're a wide receiver. Michael Gallup, we already know, may not be ready for week 1. For Michael Gallup himself saying it'd be a stretch to say he'll be ready for week 1. What do you do with Jalen Tolbert now? How do you handle him in redraft leagues, Ferrell?
I've been drafting him all year, and I expected him to find a wonderful landing spot. He found perhaps the best. James Washington is on a 1-year contract making a homecoming, and no one seems to be excited except James and his team. Tolbert is a fine player. We've talked about him plenty on the show. I'd like to hear Terp's idea of him, but I thought as third-round draft pick, the Dallas Cowboys did themselves very well finding this player.
Yeah, Terp, what do you make of Jalen Tolbert? How high does he go now with these injuries to Gallup and Washington?
I think he's only going to go higher. I mean, it's pretty hard not to like what you see early in camp. James Washington, obviously, with the injury, Gallup not being ready. I mean, the Cowboys, they're going to throw the ball. I know people are going to say, oh, Elliott this, Pollard that. But I think Tolbert can only rise up. I could see him getting as high as maybe the 10th if things continue to progress and they don't add anybody. There's whispers of Will Fuller. We'll see. I mean, Will Fuller's been sitting out there for a while and he hasn't made a move. This seems like the perfect fit. But if there's no Will Fuller in Dallas and they don't trade for anybody, I mean, how can you not like Tolbert at this spot? The GOAT District, they're having an exceptional draft so far. It's from top to bottom, it's, in my opinion, the best team.
All right, so let's talk about that team right now. This is Dan Williamson, the overhyped sleeper from the GOAT District, the industry pro drafting. And I say industry pro, but he's an FFPC veteran here as well, as he doubles up at tight end with Evan Ingram here in the 13th round. But he gets Justin Herbert and Kirk Cousins as his quarterbacks. Now, I believe there's no hookups there, right? Those are naked.
That's the only worry. But 5th round Herbert is tough. It's a tough thing to pass up.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, we have seen the quarterback slip. Justin Herbert in this format, according to the Mojo here, over the last 5 days is 502, and then GOAT District gets him here in the middle of the 5th round, mid to late. I mean, that's almost a 2/3 of a round of value there. He adds Michael Thomas, Kadarius Toney, Treylon Burks. And then obviously when you start off with Eckler and Barkley, you probably look away from the running back position to fill in those other spots, which I think you did a pretty good job of. But then Ramondre Stevenson in the 9th round too. I mean, to have him as your number 3 running back when you got all that value in the 6 rounds since you've taken your 2nd running back in Saquon Barkley, there's a lot to love there. And Terp, I know it's not just because he took Treylon Burks that you're loving this team.
Everything about this team I like. There's really nothing I could say negative about it. I've been trying to stay quiet. I love those guys. Trying to give them too much credit, but it's really hard not to. I mean, from top to bottom, where's the weakness on this team? I don't see it.
And as Aiden is pointing out in the chat, I mean, you can make the case that Eckler and Justin
That's
Herbert
very true.
Are actually the stack here since Eckler is such a proficient pass catcher too. So that is what the GOAT District's done. Let's go back to Team 1 and Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski here. What they did in the 12th is they added on a quarterback to back up Russell Wilson. That also creates a stack for them with Amari Cooper in getting Deshaun Watson. We found out the news today. Excuse me. It is a 6-game suspension for Watson. The NFL has 3 days to appeal it. We will see if they do that or not. Ferrell, what's your sort of read into the situation? Will the NFL appeal this 6-game suspension for Watson? And how do you handle Watson now that we know what the suspension is?
I like him drafted here. I heard that the NFL was appealing. It seems like the think tank at 345 Park Avenue has is holding a terrible grudge against the Browns. At least people there in Cleveland think so. This is where he should go right now, and people I think will be wishing they had pushed him a little higher once he gets on the field. It's what I want to see is what happens to some of these other Brown players, especially the young receiver Peoples-Jones, who I think becomes a very attractive receiver down the stretch.
Yeah, I've been drafting Peoples-Jones quite a bit late in a lot of drafts so far this season. Obviously, it's kind of a lottery ticket, but now he's getting, some pub in from the beat writers in the preseason, and David Bell obviously is dealing with an injury as well. So maybe this makes DPJ a nice little addition for anybody who is drafting him late earlier on in the season, and he might go up draft boards now as well. We'll follow that situation right here on the HSFF Hour. 13th round complete. Tyrion Davis Price to Marcoux and Stanowski. Nico Collins to Josh Hayes. Jerick McKinnon off the board to Lou Tranquilli. James Robinson to Doug Orth from FF Today. Tua Tagovailoa pairs with Justin Fields for the quarterback combo in Bill Van Ormer's quarterback room there and his squad from the 5 spot. Jarvis Landry, Saints receiver, goes to Pat Kerrane. Robert Tonyan and Evan Ingram back-to-back here. The Hootens take Robert Tonyan, and Williamson takes Evan Ingram, as you just heard earlier. A few quarterbacks here to complete the 13th round, guys. Daniel Jones to John Hurd. Trevor Lawrence backing up Dak Prescott for Liam Murphy's squad. Hayden Hurst, the 3rd tight end drafted by Shane Wingard here, and then Jameis Winston off the board as the 2nd quarterback for BigGuyFantasySports.com's Bob Lung. What do you make, Terp, of the CEO squad here, waiting until the 10th round to take a tight end, but now having 3 of them on his squad by the 13th in Freiermuth, Fant, and Hurst?
I've been doing that a lot. I don't hate the mentality. In this type of format, you need one. Obviously, tight end is very important with the extra half for the catch. But Freiermuth, Fant, Hurst, would I pick those 3? I love Fant. Freiermuth is okay. Hurst is not really for me. But all he needs one. And in this type of format, if you can just get one, with all the other talent this team has, very solid. I'm fine with that mentality. If you're going to wait, just get a couple, maybe draft a 4th with some upside like a Brevin Jordan we've talked about multiple times.
Yeah.
And I think this team will be fine.
Ferrell, what's standing out to you here in the 13th round? I'll try to lead you in the direction of the player I really want to talk about, in James Robinson, a guy that I kind of made up my mind early in the draft. Well, late in last season, when he tore his Achilles, I kind of made my peace with it. I'm like, well, I'm not going to grab him on any teams this year. I mean, there's no spot that I'd be comfortable drafting him, and yet he has looked really good in rehab, and from all intents and purposes, it seems like he's coming on, and he's going to be a factor in that Jacksonville backfield. I've stopped drafting Snoop Connor with the final pick of a lot of my drafts. And now it's all about Etienne and Robinson. But Robinson in the 13th for a team here in Doug Orth, who is loading up on the running backs. In fact, that's his 7th running back through 13 rounds. What do you make of the Robinson pick for him?
And the one I like the most of his double-digit running backs. I can't seem to get in a draft where Robinson stays available later than the 11th round. And I've been drafting a great deal. And I'm all for that pick. I'd like to go back to the CEO's team. I've been pretty unenthused about Hayden Hurst until I started thinking about what Hurst did when he first came into the league. And I think that's a great pick by the CEO there. I'm higher on Freiermuth than Terp is, and I think Freiermuth dropping to the 10th round in this format is another steal. We've been playing. He's been making the steals in the 11th position all night long. So congratulations for him. And Lou has thrown out ADP completely out the window, especially with his 11th round pick. And I love that for Lou. He goes and gets the guys he wants. So go ahead, Lou, do your thing.
Former FFPC high stakes fantasy football hour guest Bill Van Ormer is drafting in the 5 spot tonight. Terp, I got to ask you this about the Dolphin stack situation. He gets Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round. He does add Tua Tagovailoa in the 13th. If you are taking Tyreek Hill, is it simply a must that you got to grab Tagovailoa at some point later on in the draft just for how cheap that stack is? If you're willing to invest,
it's a must. It depends on just the overall structure of your team, I guess, and who you have at receiver. Like if you're dealing with a DJ Moore or like a Terry McLaurin or who else is on this list? Deontay Johnson, guys like that. You're probably going to want to get them, but if you're dealing with guys like Cortland Sutton, Allen Robinson, Marquise Brown, Judy, Bateman, guys like that, you have more of a availability when it comes to stacking a top-notch quarterback. And Tua's just he's not a guy that I'm in love with, but with the stacking possibility as your 2, you can't really go wrong with that, especially the way this team's structured.
14th round about to come to completion here, guys, as McCole Hardman goes to Bob Lung. Shane Wingard takes Matt Ryan to go with Michael Pittman. We asked him about that earlier. He does indeed make it happen. Matt Ryan to Shane Wingard here at the 14:02. Khalil Herbert off the board to Liam Murphy, followed by KJ Osborne to John Hurd. Josh Palmer, one of the young receivers, or one of the few young receivers for the Chargers, as Keenan Allen, Mike Williams aren't exactly spring chickens anymore. I guess Mike Williams is. But Keenan Allen maybe not so much. But Palmer is what I'm getting at here. He goes to Dan Williamson. Kenny Galladay to the Hootens here. Phil and Jerry Hooten take Kenny Galladay there. J.D. McKissick off the board at the 14:07 to Pat Kerrane from NBC Sports Edge and the Ship Chasing Show. Jamison Williams after that to Bill Van Ormer. Brevin Jordan, another tight end that seems to be climbing the ranks here, not only in the Pros versus Joes, but in the Football Guys Players Championship and the FFPC main event. Doug Orth from FF Today grabs him there, and then we get 3 straight receivers to end out the 14th round. It's Paris Campbell in Indianapolis to Lou Tranquilli. It's Christian Watson in Green Bay to Josh Hayes, and it's Michael Gallup in Dallas to Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski here to complete the 14th round. Ferrell, I got to ask you about Khalil Herbert. I can't remember if we've talked about him or not, but I do want your opinion on him. If you are, let's put this in the frame of mind of, I don't like Chicago Bears, I don't like David Montgomery. Does that mean you should be taking Khalil Herbert later on?
No, sir, doesn't. If you don't like Chicago Bears and you don't like Montgomery, there's reasons associated with that from the players that are around him. Same players will be around Herbert.
And Terp, how often have you drafted Khalil Herbert so far this year? What's your share situation like with him?
About 15%. It's probably a good number so far. So pretty high. He's one of my highest owned handcuffs. I'm not a David Montgomery guy. I just think Herbert, you saw his standalone value last year. I'm higher on the Bears than pretty much anybody out there. There's a couple guys that I know that are pretty high on him. Most people hate him. Most people aren't buying into the new coaching staff. They're not buying into Justin Fields. I just think if there's a guy that I'm targeting in the 14th round and I'm, stacking running backs like, Liam Murphy's doing, you can't really go wrong with Herbert.
Let's talk about this question from the chat right now from Aiden wants to know, Terp, you've been big on Jameson Williams for the majority of drafting season, but you haven't
Number one
talked
receiver coming out.
Okay, so you haven't talked a whole lot about him in pros versus Joes. 14th round. What do you say about the value for Jameson Williams there?
It's the perfect 14th round pick. Is he going to help you right away? No. But let's look at that team. Ayuk, Smith, Robinson, Hill, Chase. They don't need him right away. He's a guy that could win. I mean, this type of league is a little different, but he's a guy that can separate you at the end. With the spike weeks, he's going to get some time this year. He's going to miss some games early. That's definitely a worry. He's going to get you a 0 the first couple of weeks. But if he comes back and he's 100%, I mean, he's going to put up them 4 for 152 and 2 TDs. The 5 for 125 and 2 TDs. You're going to see those weeks that at the end when injuries happen and teams get a little whittled down. Jameson Williams is a guy that I've been targeting a lot in best ball.
Ferrell, we know you like Michael Pittman quite a bit. We know that you like Shane Wingard, taking him here at the 311, which is crazy good value for him. Said he has not seen that so far this season. He gets him tonight at the 311. If you were drafting in the FFPC best ball tournament or in pros versus Joes, and you get the gift of Michael Pittman at 311, would you be looking at making Matt Ryan a priority later on in the draft?
Yeah, and it hasn't happened much for me because I've got a big ownership share of Pittman. Much like Terp was saying about Tua, it's not really necessary, but it's nice to have. But look at some of the players that are coming, that are still available where Ryan's going, and I'm probably staying away from quarterback because some quarterbacks I like better are still on the board. But yeah, it's a nice build. You put another Colt in there and perhaps Naheem Hines, then I might feel a little differently about it.
We are through the 15th round, guys. Gus Edwards went at the 15:01 to Marcoux and Stanowski. Jared Goff, the player who he was traded for, is Matthew Stafford, and Stafford and Goff will both find homes on Josh Hayes' 2022 iteration of his pros versus Joe's squad. DPJ, a.k.a. Donovan Peoples-Jones, to Lou Tranquilli. George Pickens, the rookie receiver for Pittsburgh, goes to Doug Orth. We get a big running back run here in the middle of the 15th round. Chris Evans is going to go to Bill Van Ormer. Pat Kerrane takes Dearness Johnson from Cleveland. Brian Robinson going to Phillip and Jerry Hooten, and then Jamal Williams off the board to the GOAT District as his number 4 running back here through 15 rounds. And then some receivers, DJ Chark to John Hurd, Julio Jones off the board to Liam Murphy, and then you are looking at Robbie Anderson to Shane Wingard, followed by the final pick of the 15th round. That's Austin Hooper, the second tight end drafted by BigGuyFantasySports.com's Bob Lung. Tight ends, guys, I'm looking at this right now. We got 25 tight ends off the board through 15 rounds. Terp, does that seem high, or are we right on par with what we're normally seeing?
I think it's a little high. It's not anything crazy. I mean, there's no real crazy reaches, I don't think. I mean, Freiermuth, like Ferrell said, fell a little later than he's been going, but there hasn't been any that I say stand out where it's wow, that's 2-3 rounds early. Brevin is only going to go up. I mean,
Everett's
you can't
moving
find anybody
up.
late.
Everett's moving up. Jordan's moving up. These are guys we all like.
Continue. They're all going to continue to move up. They don't have anybody really behind them in great offenses.
But yeah, Ferrell, let's talk about the Gerald Everett thing here, because normally I feel like he doesn't. Yeah, he's normally goes at the 12:02, which I guess he has moved up. Tight end 17. What do you think the reason is for that recently? Because I feel like we're not getting a lot of great reports. I mean, we're not getting bad reports on Gerald Everett. We're not getting a ton of great reports on Everett. Why do you think the high stakes owners and the PVJ drafters tonight are moving him up?
We're just looking at the fact of the quarterback arm skill and the talent. We hear sometimes that Herbert maybe the number one passing quarterback in the league. A lot of people think that this year. We think that the AFC West is going to be explosive. And, I was a big proponent of Everett, and he quietly caught 47 passes last year. I really do like the player. I did not like the situation last year and the way that they utilized him. He's gone to Seattle. He's gone to the Chargers with a purpose, and I think we see an improved year. And when you can get a talent like that as your second quarterback to go with Pitts, I think that's really, you need a guy that can have a big spike performance, have a couple of big games, because Pitts is your steady Eddie at that position. So Gerald Everett can fill that need as a dual flex, and when Pitts has the one or two off games at a bye week. I like it.
Guys, it's not often we get breaking news during the high stakes fantasy football hour broadcast of the
I'm nervous.
Pros versus Joes. No, this is huge. According to, I believe, I checked my source here. Yeah, ESPN.com. Peyton Manning will be co-hosting the CMA Awards with Luke Bryan this year.
Great. Thanks for that update. Breaking news is always a scary thing in the preseason.
So
I don't need a heart attack on the show.
So, yeah, Terp, now that your blood pressure has calmed down, knowing that nobody is, as far as we know, hurt or arrested or suspended. Let's talk. And wow, we got a massive running back run to talk about here coming up in the season. But we do have a question here in the chat. It's from our boy Matt Bingham here. He wants to know, does Van Jefferson's injury bump Tyler Higbee up at all? Not really a wide receiver. 3 of note, given that Jefferson's hurt, Odell Beckham's still hurt and still not in Los Angeles, by the way. And then he says, Tutu Atwell is there, but is he going to be a difference maker? I'm with him. It's probably not going to be Tutu Atwell making a lot of waves this year. But Terp, what do you think of Tyler Higbee now that we know that Jefferson is going to be recovering from at least a knee scope?
Higbee definitely should move up in drafts. I don't think he's going to move up a ton. The Jefferson thing definitely has me worried a little bit. But if anything, something that most people aren't talking about, it might make Odell Beckham a solid 19th, 20th round pick, because there's a very good chance he's going back to LA. And he's pretty much free in drafts right now. And if you can get away with, storing him on your bench, especially in best ball, I mean, if Jefferson's out for an extended period of time, we saw what Beckham did in this offense last year. It was breathtaking to watch. I mean, he was on the way to the Super Bowl MVP before he got hurt.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a guy that Tutu Atwell, that's the first and last time we ever need to mention his name.
Ferrell Aiden points out in the chat, will we see a little bit more of 2 back sets with Henderson and Akers in lieu of Van Jefferson being out there? What are the chances of that?
Very little. I don't think so. Why break? Why fix what is not broken? It's a Super Bowl championship team. They believe in their one back system. One of the backup tight ends, guys. It's Blanton. I think it's Kendall Blanton. They've been looking at him as a slot receiver, which would be a big target, good move tight end. Much in what we've talked about some of the other glorified tight ends in the league who are legitimate slot receivers. And so that would intrigue me about this player. But I think Terp is all over the Odell Beckham selection. And I've been doing it wherever I can.
Allen Robinson to the moon.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that for sure. Terp, Dave Gladstone in the chat wants to know when you think Beckham would be ready to play this year, recovering from that ACL. When do you think he would be ready to get out there?
That's the issue with drafting Odell Beckham. This is a Super Bowl team. This is a team with Super Bowl aspirations. He knows he's not coming back to go to some scrub team. He knows exactly what that team offers with Stafford, and obviously being there last year. He could be whatever the last minute to sign is, that could be where he signs. So it's a big risk to do it. But if he gets a little antsy and wants to come back and they say he's 100%, we could be looking at maybe like week 10, 11, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It might be a little aggressive, but if you can get him for the last 7 weeks of the season, it might be worth the risk, because he's definitely a guy that won't be drafted in main events. in my opinion. You won't be able to hold him that long.
Right.
He could be you could have a bidding frenzy at the end of the year if he signs back in LA, and he could be an overall winner, especially if he lands here.
We saw a lot of running backs land on various teams in the 16th round. In fact, we had a run of 7 straight running backs, 8 total running backs go in the 16th round here, guys. Bob Lung took Ryan Tannehill to kick things off in the 16th. That's his 3rd quarterback. Kenyon Drake, then this is the running back run. Kenyon Drake to Shane Wingard, Mark Ingram to Liam Murphy. Then you're looking at Raheem Mostert off the board to John Hurd, Hassan Haskins to the GOAT District, Deontay Foreman to the Hootens, Sony Michel to Pat Kerrane, and then Darrell Williams to Bill Van Ormer here as his number 6 running back. Mac Jones to Doug Orth, Kendrick Bourne to Lou Tranquilli. Marlon Mack goes off the board. He is the selection of the penultimate selection of the 16th round, going to Josh Hayes, followed by David Bell, the rookie receiver from Cleveland, to Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski. A massive running back run here, guys. Now that we know that Alvin Kamara, well, we don't know it. I mean, we were talking about this earlier here with Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski. Now that we think that the suspension for Alvin Kamara may not happen until 2023, what do you do with Mark Ingram, Ferrell? Was he even a guy you were looking at before the suspension, knowing that he's not a young guy anymore, not the biggest pass catcher in the world either? What do you do with Ingram?
I don't draft him. Plain and simple. I did.
That's the right
I
answer.
haven't even considered it.
So Ingram is not on the board for Ferrell. Terp agrees. Liam Murphy taking him here late. And that's a lot of running backs there. But, I mean, I guess we've seen this before. We've seen it from the Hootens this draft, pounding all these receivers early. 4 receivers in the first 6 picks. You look at Murphy's team. He gets 4 receivers in his first 5 picks, and now he is hitting green hard. Elijah Mitchell, Rashad White, Alexander Madison, Darrell Henderson, Khalil Herbert, Mark Ingram, Eno Benjamin. Dave, you've won a lot of different ways, not only in best ball leagues, but football guys, main event. What has there been a better process for you or a better team structure? Have you won with running backs early, receivers in the middle and late? Have you won with receivers early and then pound the running backs? What's been more successful for you as you look back on your successful teams?
Probably anchor running back or taking too early and then just stopping would probably be the two structures that I like the most. I'm not a 0 wide receiver guy. I've been playing with a little bit through draft so far. And yeah, some teams turn out good, but I feel like there's so much risk attached to that, especially in like a main event type of situation. It's a little too risky for me. I'd rather start like we talked about with team, I think it's 7 with Diggs and Swift, and then just, stockpile a very good tight end, some receivers, and then after that, fill in the spaces. Because team 10, it's really hard for me to ever criticize anything he does. He just won $1 million last year. But he's a little too risky at running back for Elijah Mitchell's a huge risk this year with Kyle Shanahan. And then the running backs after. He stockpiled them. So realistically, he only needs 2. But he needs a lot of injuries. He could be out of it by the time that matters.
Guys, we're through the 17th round. James Crowder to Marcoux and Stanowski. Mo Alley Cox joins Mike Gesicki and David Njoku as the tight ends for Josh Hayes and Rotoballer. Isaiah McKenzie joins a heavy receiver squad here for Lou Tranquilli, as since the 7th round, Lou has utilized his 10 picks. He's utilized 7 of them on 8 of them on wide receivers, definitely hitting the yellow hard, peeing yellow, as the kids say here, with Isaiah McKenzie at the 1703. Zay Jones after that to Doug Orth. Zach Wilson joins Justin Fields and Tua Tagovailoa on Bill Van Ormer's squad at the quarterback position. Corey Davis goes to Pat Kerrane from NBC Sports Edge. Davis Mills, the 3rd quarterback drafted by Phil and Jerry Hooten. We talked about that with Jerry. Were you going to go with a 3rd quarterback? And he said, 2 seems a little bit light in this 20-round format. They get Davis Mills here in the 17th to make it 3. Alec Pierce to Dan Williamson. Marvin Jones is the selection for John Hurd here before Liam Murphy then takes Eno Benjamin. Shane Wingard takes A.J. Green from the Arizona Cardinals. Almost called them the Phoenix Cardinals. Yikes. Logan Thomas off the board to complete the 17th round as the tight end drafted by Bob Lung And Ferrell, and we look at this squad, and I know he just added Cameron Brate in the 18th round. I always say this, I am not a strong enough man to wait in an FFPC format to the 11th round to take my first tight end. He gets Higbee there, and he's obviously been hitting tight ends later on with Hooper, Logan Thomas, and Cameron Brate. Is that something that you've ever tried before, waiting that long on a tight end in an FFPC league?
I waited to the 13th round once and got the Raider tight end. And that year he caught a touchdown pass of 80 yards against Terp's Eagles. And that was about the only thing that he did that year. It's a little too late at night for me to remember that tight end's name, but he was a stalwart tight end on the team. No, I've either been too early or too late. And this week, I drafted amongst the top group, I drafted Hawkinson. And I couldn't get it out of my head. I went early on another tight end, earlier than I would, because I just wasn't feeling comfortable that Hawkinson was enough. So, yeah, not for me. I'm going to try to get a guy that I really believe in. And then, if I don't get one of those first four, I've got to come in with the guys later that I like, which that number is getting smaller and smaller. I think it centers around Freiermuth and Knox.
Ferrell, let's keep it going here. Matthew Bingham in the YouTube chat says that he feels Elijah Mitchell this year has vibes of Miles Sanders from last year. He could see a good volume between the 20s, but if he is working as part of a committee, he might lose the goal line work. Obviously, a mobile quarterback there, and Trey Lance who could steal some touchdowns as well. How do you view Elijah Mitchell this year, Ferrell? I don't know how much you've drafted him.
I've drafted him a great deal, and I'm willing to give up on some of that goal line work to get this player in the 6th round. He's he's my number 2 running back then, and I'm happy with that. I like his skill set, and there's ways to score touchdowns outside of the red zone and inside the 5-yard line. Trey Lance is, I'm a firm believer in that if he is successful, that's how he's going to stay on the field with his feet. So there could be some thought process to that it could be slim for other running backs on the Niners as they approach the goal line.
18th round completed here. Cameron Brate, the 4th tight end drafted. We just mentioned this. Bob Lung takes Cameron Brate. Carson Wentz, the 3rd quarterback chosen by Shane Wingard. Taysom Hill off the board as the 3rd tight end drafted by FantasySports.com's Liam Murphy. Romeo Dobbs, another receiver here for John Hurd as he adds to an impressive stable of them. That is number 9. 9 receivers, Mrs. Bueller. Romeo Dobbs here to No Logistics, John Hurd. Greg Dulcich is the 3rd tight end drafted by Dan Williamson. Terrace Marshall from the Carolina Panthers to the Hootens. KJ Hamler, the Denver Broncos receiver, off the board to NBC Sports Edge and ship chasing host Pat Kerrane he grabs KJ Hamler here. Trey Sermon and Zamir White, 2 young running backs, go off the board here to Bill Van Ormer and Doug Orth, respectively. Baker Mayfield to Lou Tranquilli as his 3rd quarterback to go with Jackson and Rogers. Sammy Watkins and Curtis Samuel complete the 18th round. Watkins to Josh Hayes. Curtis Samuel goes off the board to Marcoux and Stanowski. Terp, you were talking about this earlier. You wanted to tell Lou, or you did tell Lou Tranquilli, make sure you get Romeo Dobbs late. He did not. I'm a little surprised with, and maybe this is because I'm in Northeast Wisconsin. I hear the Romeo Dobbs stuff. Of course, today it was all about Josh Hader being traded to the San Diego Padres. But Romeo Dobbs, I hear so many glowing practice reports about him. I'm a little surprised he hasn't moved up more than he has. Are you surprised too?
I'm very surprised because, like Lou said, I mean, who's catching passes in Green Bay right now? I ask you every single show, who's going to be that guy? Alan Lazard is not going to be that guy. So one of these guys are going to have to emerge, and you're getting a guy, he's in shorts, pads aren't on, he has no trust of Aaron Rodgers yet, but in the 18th round, I'm shocked he's not moving up.
Yeah.
Because you look at some of the guys that are going over him, I'm not saying Romeo's, some superstar, but you could see the upside in the offense that's there. Somebody has to emerge. It's not going to be Randall Cobb. It's not going to be Sammy Watkins. Why not take a shot on a guy like this who's getting positive press?
Home run swings. You got to be
a home run swing.
Yeah.
you could easily paint a picture that Romeo's starting receiver week 1. And you're getting a starting receiver with Aaron Rodgers in the 18th round. I mean, I'm going to make a prediction at the end of this show that I hope people record and listen, but you're going to realize it's not about him, but it's about that team.
All right. One of the things I always do in the FFPC mailer at the end of the season, when I talk about the best ball tournament champs or the Superflex best ball tournament champs or pros or shows, like basically Terminator, any of the best ball formats, I always like to single out, some of the big time players that really helped this team win 10,000, 200,000, $1 million, whatever it is. And I look at Romeo Doubs having a non-zero chance of the player at the end of the season when we're looking at who won this league. Like, how did John Hurd get Romeo Doubs in the 18th round? That's crazy. I mean, we said it about Chase Claypool his rookie year, didn't we? In pros versus Joes, and Hudson Kern-Reeve is in the chat room right now, and I could be misremembering this, but I feel like he had a very successful pros versus Joes, winning the title one year, and I think it was Duda or whoever did. It's all blurring together, but I feel like Chase Claypool was like a 19th round pick or something like that, and whoever won the whole thing, we look back on it like, how did Claypool go in the 19th round? Well, he was going in the 19th round of a lot of drafts.
It's
but
crazy. Look at Elijah Mitchell last year. I mean, he was
Elijah
going
Mitchell,
in the 20th round.
Perfect example. So that's why it's important. Like, obviously you don't want to screw up the first half of your draft, but it's so key to make sure you hit on one of these guys
Take some shots at the end of your draft. I mean, taking a guy like AJ Green isn't going to win you $1 million.
No.
If Romeo Doubs had attended a Power 5 conference school, he would be in the 10, 11, 12 draft range.
That's correct.
Where would he have been drafted in the NFL draft, Ferrell?
Three.
Third round? Okay. All right. Yeah, because Aaron
that
Rodgers.
same production at a bigger school. 3.
Kern-Reeve pointing out, by the way, that Corey Davis was his magic card the year that he won pros versus Joes, not Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool was somebody else. Could have been John Hurd. I can't remember. All right, guys, 19th round is complete. Marcus Mariota off the board at the 1901 to Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski here as we look at Josh Hayes taking CJ Uzomah as he goes off the board as the number 4 tight end drafted by Josh Hayes. Lou Tranquilli goes with Jeff Wilson from the 49ers backfield. Odell Beckham, Terp mentioned him. Look at him in the 19th or 20th. Doug Orth takes him in the 19th round here. Will Fuller, another guy who is a free agent right now, not signed by anybody, could pay dividends to Bill Van Ormer later on. Then you're looking at Trey McBride and Kyle Rudolph going back-to-back here. McBride to Kerrane, Kyle Rudolph to Hooten. Pierre Strong, a rookie running back for New England, goes to Dan Williamson, followed by Devin Duvernay, Quez Watkins, a couple of receivers off the board here. Duvernay to John Hurd, Quez Watkins to Liam Murphy, Calvin Austin off the board to Shane Wingard here, and then Byron Pringle completes the 19th round. A lot of receivers here, guys. Farrell, I don't know, as you look at the 19th round receivers here, Beckham, Fuller, they don't have teams. They could be good. Duvernay is fighting with Prochet for the number 2 receiver on a run-first offense. Then you have Watkins, Austin, and Pringle. Guys either we know and we're not expecting much or the unknown that we don't know what to expect from them. Who's your favorite 19th round receiver between those 6 players there? Is there one guy that stands out maybe a little bit more than the others?
Beckham stands out, but we've talked enough about that. Pringle always seemed to be real close to bringing it in Kansas City, but that's an interesting pick. There's nothing here that really stands out, and I think possibly I could have found something that I would have liked a little better. Velus Jones is still available, and Mooney was drafted by the 11th, Team 11. That's the CEO. So there I would have probably taken Velus Jones.
By the way, just so we know that this is not going to waste, guys, Matt Bingham in the chat. This was great stuff. Really appreciate you putting in so many hours these past couple weeks. The content is terrific and getting me really stoked for the season. Cheers. So we are making a difference here tonight in the fantasy football industry as we cover these drafts. The 20th round is complete. I'll take you through that as we wrap up draft number 5 tonight. Tyler Batty off the board to Bob Lung. Randall Cobb going to Shane Wingard. Daniel Bellinger to Liam Murphy, Jonnu Smith to John Hurd. Isaiah Pacheco is the final pick for the GOAT District's Dan Williamson. Big receiver run here. Juwan Jennings to the Hootens, Laviska Chenault from Jacksonville off the board to NBC Sports Edge's Pat Kerrane. Brian Edwards is the final pick for Bill Van Ormer. Cedric Wilson and Braxton Berrios go back-to-back here to Orth and Tranquilli, respectively. Keshawn Vaughn is the final pick for Rotoballer.com's Josh Hayes. And Mr. Irrelevant tonight is also the third tight end, drafted by Matt Marcoux and Mike Stanowski. Kylan Granson, 36 tight ends off the board, 74 running backs, 100 receivers, gentlemen, tonight. What are the takeaways here in this draft? Terp, I'll start with you as you look at this. Well, actually, you know what we should do, Terp? Let's talk about, so earlier you said you had a favorite team in this draft, and now it's escaping me which one you said was good, or that was your favorite. Team 8, Dan Williamson. Thank you. How did it turn out for you?
My prediction, first of all, one thing before I say that.
Yeah.
So Friday night, I'll be drafting with those guys on their show, an FFPC best ball. So make sure you tune in for that.
Okay.
Shameless plug right there. Number 2, final prediction. The GOAT District will win Pros versus Joes.
Overall?
Yes.
Now, I feel like you're just hamming it up
I'm not.
right now.
Dan knows I don't do any of that stuff. And we have a lot of bets going on.
You got to bring this up. When you're on the GOAT District, I want you to bring that up as well, Terp, and say that like you went out on a limb and said, because Dan may hate his draft. I don't know. I haven't been following this.
I hope he does. I love every part of his draft. To me, it's the best draft I've seen so far from top to bottom. They will win Pros versus Joes.
Ferrell, what
don't
about
we have a draft
too, so things could change, but as of right this second,
I got you.
They're the winner.
All right. Ferrell, did you get a chance to look at Williamson's team here at the 8 spot? And I'll just run it down for the listeners here. For Dan Williamson's squad, Justin Herbert and Kirk Cousins are the quarterbacks. Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Ramondre Stevenson, Jamal Williams, Hassan Haskins, Pierre Strong, and Isaiah Pacheco are the running backs. Jalen Waddle, Michael Thomas, Kadarius Toney, Traylon Burks, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Tolbert, Josh Palmer, Alec Pierce at receiver. Tight ends are George Kittle, Evan Ingram, and Greg Dulcich. Farrell, what say you?
Yeah, I think it's a very good team. I like what he did at tight end late with Dulcich. I think he'll play a great deal at Denver. He has Alec Pierce, who's going to be the number 2 receiver at Indianapolis. I like that a lot. He stayed consistent through this draft. Every player that he took, Tyler Lockett's the darling of this concept. Michael Thomas, we expect some big things, especially later in the year. Waddle was at a value. Barkley was at a value, and Eckler was at a value. So, yeah, it's a good team.
All right, let's. I want to bring in one final guest just for a couple of quick minutes. You know him from FF Today. It is Doug Orth, a veteran of the FFPC Pros versus Joes competition. Doug, your draft is done from the 4 spot. How did it turn out, man? Just like how you imagined it to turn out, or were there some surprises for you?
The first pick that was somewhat expected. Everything else after that was going on the fly. I'm actually pretty happy considering I was planning on going running back. If I got Jefferson in the second round, I'm pretty happy with the way things turned out. Generally speaking, with the receivers that I have, I was just looking for volume at running back, so that kind of explains my Montgomery and Breece Hall picks.
Did you have the plan going in where I'm going to hit receivers early, and then I'm going to really scout the running backs in the mid rounds and pound those guys out, and hopefully, they help me carry my team to a championship? Was that the plan going in, or was that dictated by the Jefferson, Evans, and McLaurin picks early?
Yeah, I was not planning. If I was going to go Jefferson, I was hoping to go running back probably 2 of the next 3 rounds at least. But Joe's kind of got me on Chubb. I was looking for Chubb there instead of Hall. I kind of expected either Elliott or Connor to make it back to me in the 4th round. But at that point, I wasn't going to pass on Evans in the 2nd round. Wasn't going to pass on McLaurin in the 4th round. So it ended up going a receiver heavy build.
Do you feel that when you look at your tight ends now that it's all said and done, you get Ertz in the 7th and Brevin Jordan in the 14th, you don't get a 3rd tight end Do you feel like you're weak there, or do you feel like you're pretty confident that Ertz and Jordan are going to be good enough?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Hurts. I believe I have him as my tight end 6. And of course, we all know it's been well documented what he's done with and without Hopkins on the field. But we all saw what he did when the few games that Hopkins was on the field last year. I think you're looking, and I've read it other places. I think people have gotten so used to Ertz being a top 10 tight end they've just gotten kind of bored with him. And, so that's what I'm looking there. I was very happy with the Ertz. Ertz was the last of my usable tight ends or usable tight end 1s, and Brady was certainly the last of the usable QB 1s.
By my count, and I could be wrong on this, I think I see 5. Is it 6 rookies or 5 rookies on this squad, Doug? You get Breece Hall, obviously in the 3rd. You're looking at Garrett Wilson in the 10th, followed by Isaiah Spiller and Tyler Algier, and then later on George Pickens and Zamir White. Do you feel like when you're drafting here in early August that you can still hit on some really good values in the pros versus Joes by drafting the unknowns in these rookies?
Certainly, but targeting rookies was not part of the plan. It was how the cliche how the board fell. Just we'll start from the bottom up here. Zamir White. I remember reading a camp report, not a camp report, but I remember reading a report from, I believe, The Athletic about a month ago, thinking that he was already either on par or above where Josh Jacobs is. So I could see him developing as the season goes on, for example. As we know, looking at my running backs, that's probably the weak point of my team. Pickens, yeah. I don't know. I like Pickens as a prospect, certainly. Reading the camp reports is a nice little touch, but I did like him. And look, I feel like Pittsburgh has continually tried to chase Martavius Bryant since Martavius Bryant was a thing, and I believe this Pickens is a more developed Martavius Bryant. So if I can hit on that, then my receivers are as good as anybody in the league.
Doug, was James Robinson just the next best guy available, or do you really have an idea of numbers for this player this year?
No, I heard you guys talking earlier. I had no intention of drafting Robinson, but in the 13th round, running back being what it was for me, and of course, I'm not going to get into the whole. I mean, part of what my day job is posting the stuff, the camp reports, and the stuff that we're talking about. I know enough to not get too hyped up or hyped down, as it were, on a player. But that combined with what I've seen, my scouting report on Pickens, I'll be more than happy if I can get 2 splash weeks or 2 Martavius Bryant weeks from him. Amen to that.
Doug, last question here for you. We found out that Isaiah Spiller's actually been doing some work with the Chargers' first-string offense. So my question for you is he going to rise up boards as a result? And sort of how do you see that Eckler-Spiller split in Los Angeles this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I won't be able to give you a touch or a production breakdown for another week yet. But I believe since draft night that he was their answer. He was the answer to he was going to be the Austin Eckler compliment that they've been looking for that this is the 3rd straight year that they spent a 4th round pick on that back. I wrote in my draft profile of Spiller that his 2020 tape reminded me of Joe Mixon. His 2021 tape was less spectacular. Based on what we're hearing in the last week or so, I'm guessing he's flashing 2024. I was really impressed with that tape, not so impressed with the 21 tape. But I don't think he's going to steal goal line carries per se, but I think kind of like Tyler Algier in Atlanta, I think he's going to get the between 20s work, and then he might get in for 4 to 6 touchdowns. He might get some goal line work, but what I drafted him for though was if Eckler gets hurt, then I've got a potential league winner there.
Speaking of league winners, this is the 2nd consecutive night on the HSFFR Pros vs. Joes coverage that we have a Kings Classic champ on. We had Jim Coventry on last night. We get Doug Orth on tonight, a guy who's been playing more than 2 decades of high-stakes fantasy football, still is waiting for that first losing season of cash. Hasn't happened yet. You can check out all of his work over at FF Today. Follow him on Twitter at Doug Orth. Doug, thanks so much for making the show part of your evening tonight. congratulations on a solid draft. Good luck the rest of the way, dude.
Appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get on earlier, guys. Thank you.
Have a good one,
all
man.
good. Thanks, Doug. Doug Orth, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him on Twitter at Doug Orth. Remember, follow FF Today on Twitter at FF_Today. Guys, that about wraps up our coverage for Draft 5. I want to thank both of you for popping on. Obviously, Ferrell, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship main event at KFFSC.com is hopping, filling up drafts there. And I would encourage everybody to not only compete online against me, but compete live in Louisville and, of course, Cincinnati as well.
Yeah, thank you, Balky. Anyone that still has an interest, we still have spots. It's day 9 since we began broadcasting with our beloved Dave Turpin. It's day 9 that he does not have a team in the KFFSC yet.
I actually looked at the website last night.
There you go, buddy.
Well, the world no longer in crisis, hopefully, then. The wheels are in motion, as they say. Terp, we will see you tomorrow, but just remind the listeners who may not be tuning in tomorrow, what time are you going to be drafting live on the GOAT District on Friday?
9 o'clock on Friday. We'll both be drafting an FFPC best ball draft. Hopefully, that'll get sold out well in advance. We'll get some good press on that. Keep drafting. All
right, and we will keep drafting in the Pros versus Joes FFPC competition tomorrow, guys. We will be back on at 10/9 Central. Certainly appreciate all the insight, all your hard work tonight, guys. Be good, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Ferrell. Thanks, Terp. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dave Terpoilli and Ferrell Elliott. Remember to follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Terp. Check out the KFFSC at KFFSC.com. Want to thank tonight's guests. Wow, did we have a lot of them? This might have set a record. Matt Marcoux, Mike Stanowski, Shane Wingard, John Hurd, Lou Tranquilli, Jerry Hooten, and of course, Doug Orth, who just popped on. Want to thank Darren Armani, the FFPC, our producer and mutual friend Rob, our audio engineer, and my best friend Bryce. Most of all of our viewers tonight. We will be back tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, for the No Mercy League number 6. It's the final Pros versus Joes we are covering. It starts at 10 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. A lot of talented Joes tomorrow tonight. Tomorrow tonight. A lot of Joes tomorrow night that are pretty talented. You're looking at Jay Scaffariello. Oh, God, I'm going to butcher that so many times tomorrow. And his co-owner, Dan Stegers, will be drafting. Peter Kulubaris and Brian Gerber, Chad Schroeder will be drafting from the 6th spot tomorrow. I think we all know who that is. Tim Deneau and Tim Beaulieu, the former FFPC main event winners, will be drafting from the 8th spot. Kevin Proctor and Jamison Proctor drafting from the 10. And, of course, Grant Dempsey picking from the 12. The Pros tomorrow, it is a sharp lineup. John Daigle from 4 for 4. Rich Rebar from Sharp Football Analysis, Mike Shope and Adam Krautwurst from the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast, a division of Draft Sharks. They will be drafting tomorrow. The FF Mastermind himself makes his return to PVJ, Michael Nazarek, Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm, and of course, the godfather of the FFPC Pros vs. Joes Challenge, Darren Armani, picking 11th tomorrow. Wow. Going to be a fun one. Do not miss that one. Main event slow drafts off and running with the FFPC, multiple football guys drafts filling up every day. If you want to try to win $1 million in the main event or $500,000 in the football guys players championship, myffpc.com is where to go. It's also where you want to go to join our best ball tournament and our Superflex best ball tournament, which continues to get closer and closer to capacity here. $35 to enter, $10,000 to the winner, $125 to enter a $200,000 grand prize in the classic best ball tournament as well. Dynasty startups going on over the next 5-ish weeks, right around there. So if you want to join in a Dynasty startup, that is where to go at myffpc.com. And of course, plenty of slow drafts in the varsity format, Terminator, Superflex, whatever you want going on at myffpc.com. I believe we're only a few days away from the start of the Terminator tournament, the tournament that Phil and Jerry Hooten won back in 2018. You can win, I believe, a $25,000 grand prize at just a $350 entry there. Those drafts pop up. Really a fun format. Check that out. You got to drop one player every week until you have one starting lineup at the end of the season on your squad. That is always a fun one. It's always fun hanging out with you guys here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour as well. We will see you again at 10/9 Central tomorrow night for the final night of Pros versus Joes. Your week continues now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
One other thing I should mention here, ladies and gentlemen, before we sign off tonight is there are leagues filling in the Football Guys Players Championship. If you got that itch and you want to scratch it tonight with the Football Guys Players Championship, don't forget we got a midnight draft going on in about 45 minutes or so, and plenty of best ball action coming up as well. It's August 1st. There's no excuse not to be drafting. If you've been waiting, this is what you've been waiting for. It's the most fun month for any of us playing fantasy football. It all kicks off today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And we will talk with you again at 10/9 Central tomorrow with Pros versus Joes, number 6. It's going to be a lot of fun, and make sure you're tuning in for it. Thanks so much, and we will talk to you in a little bit less than 24 hours.